Today's payday, right? Where's the money? I gave you the money and you don't even say thank you? I feel like you haven't said it once in 18 years. Are you grateful? Respecting your parents is a given. Grateful? Why would I be? You should be thankful to us for giving birth to you and raising you. I see. Mom, you think it's only natural to take my money. What's with you today? A bit rebellious, aren't you? What's wrong? Something happens? You're acting strange. Asking if I'm grateful for getting money, that's weird. What's that about? You're the eldest daughter and we let you go to college. It's only natural for you to be dutiful. Do you think the air you breathe? I think it's strange. Why do I have to give almost all my salary? And why don't all three of you work? How rude. We do work. Just because you're the only one with a full-time job, do you look down on us who work part-time or have temp jobs? You're just being selfish, wanting to keep your money for luxuries. Aren't you the ungrateful one? If you don't like it, leave. I doubt Big Sis, who's always cooped up at home except for work, could live properly on her own. I've been giving my family money and supporting them for 18 years. My mind was so warped that I didn't think it was strange. But now, it's different. I clearly see it's wrong. Then, I'll gladly leave. Just leaving will be enough to make my parents and sister regret it. A month later, sure enough, the frantic calls came. I'm Mirabelle. A 40-year-old single, still living at home. People often think I'm mooching off my parents because I'm still at home at this age. But that's not the case. There's a reason I've stayed at home until this age. To explain, we need to go back to when I was in elementary school. When I was 7, my sister was born. Ah, she's so cute. Mirabelle, you're a big sister now. Make sure to protect your little sister. Got it. I'll be a responsible big sister. I have this memory of Dad and Mom, Sean and Sally, being overjoyed at the birth of their second child, Mary. Dad kept poking Mary's cheeks, making her cry, and getting scolded by Mom. He couldn't help himself. I also thought I'd play a lot with my sister once she grew up. But I quickly came to dislike my sister. Mom, I can't find my gym bag. It's where it always is. Look for it yourself, you're a big sister now. The gym clothes bag is always hanging on a hook in the living room shelf. I asked Mom about it because it wasn't on the hook, but she responded in a strong tone, as if I had lost it. Usually, when this happens, the bag turns up in a drawer. Mom sometimes mistakenly puts it away with someone else's clothes. I searched through various drawers and finally found the bag, but Mom showed up at the worst possible time. Hey! Don't mess up the drawers. Sorry. You're a big sister now, don't make extra work for me. Even as a grade schooler, I knew this was unfair. But when scolded by a parent, most children feel at fault, even if they're not. I refolded the disarrayed clothes in the drawer and quietly said sorry to Mom's back. Since my sister Mary was born, Mom started to scold me, and I began to see her as scary. I also became afraid of Dad. Did you buy another toy for Mary? It doesn't matter how many she has. Lucky her, Dad. Buy me something too. Yeah, next time. You said that last time. When will you buy it? Shut up! When I say next time, it's next time. If you keep complaining, I won't buy anything. Dad's shouting made Mary cry, and he frantically tried to soothe her. I was on the verge of tears, but he ignored me. Getting scolded by Mom was bad enough, but Dad's yelling was scarier because he was a man. Dad became a symbol of fear for me. And Mom never took my side. Mom! It's your fault for nagging Dad. You're the big sister, you should be patient. Help me wash the dishes now. Mom handed me a soapy sponge, expecting me to wash the dinner dishes. As the big sister, I took the sponge and washed the plates with practiced movements. Thanks, I'll leave the rest to you. Once I started washing, Mom left to join Mary. I continued, listening to my parents' cheerful voices from behind. It's common for the elder child to feel neglected or be asked to help more when a younger sibling is born. Parenting is hard, and sometimes parents have no spare energy, so it's understandable to some extent. Usually, things naturally resolve as the children grow up. I convinced myself it was just while Mary was little and decided to endure it. But in our family, things didn't change even as my sister Mary grew up. In fact, the difference in how our parents treated me and Mary only got bigger. "Hey, Dad, I really wanted this dress." "What kind is it this time?" "If it's expensive, we can't buy it." "It's this one, on this page." "Looks pricey again." "But I really want it. Please buy it for me." All right. I'll talk to your mom, and we can go buy it together next time." "Yay! Thanks." Mary was happily waving the magazine around. I never got anything I wanted except for birthdays and Christmas. But if Mary just asked, our parents would have bought it for her. Once, I tried asking like her, but was immediately shut down with "you need to be patient," so I didn't bother asking again. As Mary grew older, through middle and high school, our parents' favoritism got worse. By the way, the washing machine stopped. "Can you hang the laundry?" Wanting to be seen as a good sister, I obediently went to hang the laundry. This continued, and I found myself always trying to please our parents. It made me so self-conscious that I couldn't relax even at home. Feeling tired even at home, when I was about to start college, I finally spoke up. "Mom, Dad, I was thinking of living alone when I start college. Is that okay? I'll work part-time to pay for my expenses." "Eh? Live alone? Can you handle that?" "That's right. And we'd be worried about our daughter living alone." "You're just saying that because you'd miss Mirabelle, aren't you?" "Hey, don't say that." When they opposed my living alone, I didn't push it and back down immediately. I thought they only cared about Mary. But I was wrong. They were concerned about me, and Dad didn't want to be separated from me. Realizing this eased my long-held anxiety, and I felt lighter. My wanting to leave home must have hit them hard, because after that, they became kinder. Mom stopped making me do housework, and Dad started asking if I wanted anything. I thought I didn't need to please them anymore, but once I started college, they reverted back to their old ways. "Why isn't breakfast ready?" "Sorry. I was up late doing a report." "What? No breakfast? What are you doing? We're paying a lot for your tuition, you should at least manage the housework." "Wait, no breakfast? Hurry up, sis." "Sorry, I'm in a rush." Rushed, I carelessly reached into the toaster to grab the hot toast. No matter how busy I was, my family of 3 never helped out. They'd usually just sit on the living room sofa, chatting and watching TV, waiting for breakfast to be served at the table in front of them. And my chores weren't limited to breakfast. I was basically responsible for all the household duties, including dinner, cleaning, and laundry. I thought my parents were against me living alone because they cared about me, but I realized I was mistaken. So, before graduating college, I decided to finally leave home. "Mom, Dad, I'm going to move out after I graduate." "Why would you say that?" "We thought we'd continue living as a family of 4. Isn't moving out something you do when you get married?" "That's right. So, you're just gonna leave us after college? We cared for you and paid for your education, and now you're just cutting ties like a detached rocket." I expected my parents to oppose my leaving since they treated me like a maid. So this time, I was determined to stand my ground. However, my parents started crying. Mom begged me not to leave, and Dad accused me of being heartless, ready to leave once I was done using them. Their crying made me feel guilty, and I couldn't go through with moving out. That was a turning point for me. Not leaving home then made my life harder. After graduating, I started working in insurance sales. Though I was no longer a student and had busy days, the household chores were still mostly dumped on me. And with me working, my parents and sister Mary started asking for things. You're getting your first paycheck soon, right? What are you gonna buy for us? Eh? I know a store I want to visit. Sis, you're gonna buy something for me too, right? A family meeting about what to buy with my first paycheck started. But it seemed I had no seat at that table. Watching them discuss around the living room table, I felt like my family was very far away. From then on, with every paycheck, my parents and Mary kept asking me for things. Well, it might have been cute if it was just asking. By the third paycheck, it turned into just give us the money so we can buy what we want. The process of buying and giving them things was even skipped. It's rude to just ask for money, even from family, so I had every right to be angry. But since I always tried to keep my parents happy since I was little, I couldn't yell at Mom and ended up giving $200 each to my parents. Sis, me too. Somehow, the habit of pleasing extended to Mary as well. In this house, it seemed that my parents and sister were on the same level, and I was beneath them. I couldn't refuse my middle school sister Mary and gave her $100. When I first started working, amounts like $200 or $100 seemed manageable. But the amounts they demanded kept increasing: $600, $1,000, $1,400. Here's this month's. Okay, good job this month, too. When I handed the envelope containing my paycheck to Mom, she took it from me as casually as if I were handing her the TV remote. As a new employee, my salary was about $4,000. A year into my job, I was handing almost all of it to Mom. Every month, I was left with just about $400. With barely enough money for necessities, I couldn't afford to go out for meals with friends, visit the salon for a haircut, or buy cosmetics. So, I ended up not going anywhere, just commuting between home and work on weekdays. On weekends, I stayed in, leading a life of seclusion. Because I couldn't afford to keep up appearances, rumors at work started about me possibly being in debt or financially supporting a man. Unable to admit that I was giving all my money to my family, I just ignored the whispers I overheard at work. Lacking the courage and willpower to change my situation, 18 years passed, and I turned 40. But it's not like I did nothing in those 18 years. I mustered a little courage and made some small attempts. I was wondering if I could give a little less money each month. What? What did you say? Dad glared at me, his face inches from mine. As if he might grab me and hit me. Never mind, it's nothing. Dad snorted and walked away, and I realized I had been holding my breath, exhaling deeply. Whenever I hesitated to give money, my parents would either cry, intimidate me, or suddenly become nice, always managing to get the entire salary from me. After 18 years at the company, my salary had increased to about $6,000. It was a bit higher than my peers. This was the result of my hard work, but the reason for my effort wasn't something to be proud of. Can't you increase your salary more? You're in insurance sales, doesn't it depend on your performance? You should try harder. I am doing my best. Enough backtalk, just bring in more money. I worked hard and increased my salary. But the extra went straight to my family, leaving me with the same $400 each month. My misplaced efforts to work harder not only resulted in a higher salary, but there was another change. About 10 years ago, my parents quit their jobs and started working part-time and temp jobs. Though they were technically working, they weren't serious about it and didn't take many shifts, so while I worked hard, they were mostly lazy at home, not even doing household chores. The average living expenses for a family of 4 are about $6,000 a month, so my salary could just about cover it. As a result, my parents used my income for living expenses and treated their own earnings like pocket money for students. I'm home. Ah, welcome back. When I returned from work, my parents were lounging on the living room sofa, eating sweets. Their spending might not seem extravagant to others, but to me, who's left with only $400 a month, their casual enjoyment of convenience store sweets felt incredibly luxurious. What are you eating? We bought some for you too. It's in the fridge. Just as I returned from work and was thinking about preparing dinner, my sister came into the living room. Despite knowing I was about to make dinner, she took out a pudding from the fridge that cost about $6. When I opened the fridge to start preparing dinner, my pudding was gone. My sister, who is 33 years old, enjoys eating pudding with our parents. However, like my parents, she's a part-time worker without a stable job. After graduating from high school, my sister didn't pursue further education or employment and has been living off our parents. Since my parents are living off me, it's practically the same as my sister living off me as well. From an outsider's perspective, my life might seem abnormal, filled with frustration and discontent. But having always tried to keep my family happy since I was young, I lack the courage to break free from this environment. I had resigned myself to a life dedicated solely to my parents and sister. Then, one day, a significant turning point arrived. My company introduced an in-house counselor as part of an effort to improve the work environment. However, it's always hard to use something new. So, the company ordered one person from each department to try a counseling session. When my boss asked for volunteers, everyone looked away. In the midst of a busy workday, no one wants to attend counseling if they don't have problems. Whenever there's something bothersome, everyone's gaze turns to me. Plain-looking and known for not refusing tasks, I'm always the sacrificial lamb. I'll go. I raised my arm, feeling as heavy as lead, volunteering for counseling. In a meeting space at the corner of the office, I started my counseling session. Any troubles with human relations? I just had one. Of course, I couldn't say something that would make enemies of everyone at work. No, nothing at all. Throughout the session, I answered the counselor's questions about work and the office environment tersely, eager to get back to work. But one question made me pause. How is your relationship with your family? I did a double take at the counselor. This was an in-house counseling session, and I didn't expect it to delve too deep into personal matters. Getting too personal could even cause problems. Yet, the counselor asked about my family. Clearly, they were good at their job. They must have sensed that I had issues outside of work. Thinking I might never have another chance to open up, I explained everything to the counselor, from the time my sister was born to the present day. The counselor listened intently, but as my story progressed, a deep frown formed on their brow. After I finished my story, the counselor paused for a moment before speaking to me. That sounds like a form of DV. DV? Domestic violence? Yes. The situation with the money could be seen as economic violence. But the real issue is your relationship with your parents. I was so shocked by the unexpected words that I forgot I was at work and raised my voice. Violence comes in many forms, while physical abuse like hitting or kicking is commonly thought of. There's also psychological abuse like emotional harassment or power harassment. In my case, it seems like economic violence involving money. Moreover, the problem seems to be the process that led me to give money to my parents. Instilled with fear and the desire not to be disliked by my family from a young age, I've been controlled by my family's actions. Occasionally, they would apologize and make me feel guilty or act kindly to make me feel needed, keeping me from leaving. This is a classic case of DV. A mix of reward and punishment, and I've been under mental control by my family, unable to break free. But surely this is a bit of an exaggeration? I'm giving them money, but it's not that bad, right? You seem unable to objectively judge your situation. At my response, the counselor started writing with a pen they hadn't moved until then. The sound of the pen scribbling made me anxious. What should I do? Don't rush. First, think about not how you want your family to see you, but how you want to be yourself. I frowned at the counselor's advice. I had never thought about what I wanted to be. I continued working that day with a sense of unease. The unease remained with me on the train ride home. Looking at my reflection in the train window, I saw my unkempt hair and tired face. My clothes were wrinkled. Seeing myself like that, I thought I should take better care of my appearance. But with only $400 to spend each month, I couldn't afford to spend it all on grooming. Then I wondered, why should I limit myself to $400? I'm the one working. Why am I giving my family money? With each jolt of the train, the fog in my mind seemed to clear a bit more. To fully clear the fog, I decided to confirm something when I got home. Today's payday, right? Where's the money? As soon as I got home, Mom, without a greeting, demanded the money. She was almost expressionless, even though she was about to receive $6,000. The fog in my mind hadn't completely lifted, so I handed over the money as usual. But with the fog slightly cleared, I was able to observe Mom's reaction more calmly. Hey, can't you earn a bit more? You are working properly, right? I gave you the money and you don't even say thank you? I feel like you haven't said it once in 18 years. Are you grateful? Respecting your parents is just natural. Grateful? Of course not. You should be the one thankful for being born and raised by us. So, Mom, you think it's only natural to take my money? What's with you today? A bit rebellious, aren't you? Mom stepped closer to me, glaring sharply. I kept my gaze fixed on her without looking away. It was the first time I really saw the intimidating look on her face. As she approached, I couldn't help but think that she could do with a bit more care in shaping her eyebrows. Hearing our exchange, Dad and my sister, who were in another room, came into the living room. What's going on? Something happens? You're acting strange. Asking if I'm grateful for getting money, that's weird. What are you talking about? You're the eldest daughter, and we let you go to college. It's only natural for you to be dutiful. Do you think the air you breathe? Dad's attempt at humor made Mom and my sister laugh. Before, I would have thought it strange that I was the only one not laughing. But now, it's different. I think it's strange. Why do I have to give almost all my salary? And why don't all three of you work? How rude. We do work. Just because you're the only one with a full-time job, do you look down on us who work part-time or have temp jobs? You're just being selfish wanting to keep your money for luxuries. Aren't you the ungrateful one? If you don't like it, leave. I doubt Big Sis, who's always cooped up at home except for work, could live properly on her own. I began to give up on reasoning with my parents and sister. They barely work, and yet they think it's fine to live off my money. I know they aren't living extravagantly, but they're comfortable using my earnings. I've been secluded at home because I've been supporting the three of them. But they might be right that I can't live on my own. After all, for the past 18 years, I've only shuttled between home and work, letting my parents handle all financial matters. Therefore, I probably don't know things that would surprise others. Embarrassingly, at 40, I don't even know how to set up automatic payments for the electricity bill. Starting to live alone would surely lead to many embarrassing moments. It would be better to stay at home. I would have thought it before. But now, the more I hear their words, the more I feel an anger rekindling inside me that I thought had disappeared since childhood. I realized my fists were clenched tightly, and my face felt hot. The fog in my mind had cleared completely. Do I really need to keep giving money to this family? Why do I even have to give them money? I finally realized the obvious and mustered the courage I never had before. Then, I'll gladly leave. I only took my work bag that was at my feet and started to leave the living room. Wait, are you really leaving? We said too much, I apologize. You'll be back soon anyway, stop being stubborn. Why are you saying you'll leave? Don't say such sad things. As I tried to leave, my sister Mary showed a panicked expression, Dad apologized, and Mom cried, clinging to me. They probably think I'm easy to manipulate and will reconsider if they act this way. This is the reward part of the reward and punishment cycle the counselor talked about. It's so clear when I'm calm. I felt dizzy with shame at how naive I'd been. Then, take care. Wait, you're really going? Apparently, my actual leaving was unexpected, and all three of them froze, speechless. This might be the last time I see their faces, so I etched their stunned expressions in my memory before leaving the house. Leaving the house was such a simple act. Such a simple thing will make my parents and sister regret what they've done to me. A month later, I finally started living on my own, a dream I'd had for 18 years. The initial anxiety is just that, initial. I got used to living alone and enjoyed my newfound freedom. However, my phone kept ringing these past few days, disrupting my mood. After work, I checked my smartphone and saw over 100 missed calls. They were all from my parents and sister Mary. I could have blocked their calls, but curious about their situation after a month, I decided to answer. Finally, you answered. Hey sis, where are you? Help me. Mary's voice was half crying, and I could tell she was genuinely in trouble, unlike before. Their situation was pretty much what I had imagined. The $6,000 I used to give them every month was their livelihood. With that gone, they now had to earn their own living expenses. But none of them had been serious about working, so they couldn't suddenly increase their shifts. Realizing they couldn't survive without jobs, they hurried to find employment. However, with a 10-year gap and being around 65 years old, my parents couldn't find work. And Mary, without stable jobs since high school graduation, also struggled to find a job. They had spent every penny I gave them each month on living expenses and used their earnings for leisure. A family that lived like this for 18 years couldn't possibly have savings. Moreover, they quit their part-time jobs in a rush to focus on job hunting. So, just a month later, they were in a dire situation and turned to me for help. Well, that's tough. Good luck then. Of course, I had no intention of helping them, so I just listened and hung up. Looking back, I can't even understand why I kept giving them money. Their thinking and actions were far from normal, yet I continued to appease them. I was in a mentally distorted state, unable to make sound judgments. The control and manipulation of the mind are terrifying. While my family might be struggling, I'm living comfortably on my own. I'm relieved to be free from my parents' control and thrilled to be able to spend my salary on myself, something so basic yet new to me. From now on, I'll prioritize what I want and live life on my terms. For starters, I plan to go shopping on my day off tomorrow. I'm taking the whole team and going independent. Tom announced proudly as I returned from work. The news was so sudden, I couldn't quite grasp it. What? As I stood there, dumbfounded, not knowing what to say, Tom, grinning, pulled out something. Also, this. Write it up and hand it in for me. That's. What he laid before me was a completed divorce form. See ya. Wait. My attempts to stop him were futile, and Tom left. Left alone in the house, I still couldn't fully comprehend the situation and just stood there. But then, suddenly, I thought of some people. Maybe they could help. I quickly grabbed my phone and called them. My name is Rachel Maxwell. I'm 27 and single. I work as an office clerk at a small IT company. Tired of the monotony, yet finding some comfort in it, I never took action to change anything. Like anyone else, I had my fair share of frustrations with work and relationships, often turning them into conversation topics with my colleagues and bosses. But there was one problem I needed to address. I couldn't find a boyfriend. While friends and colleagues got married, my life had not even a hint of romance. Whenever I thought a friend was calling after a long time, it was usually to announce their marriage. Anxious about my lack of romantic encounters, I couldn't genuinely congratulate them. But even when I thought about taking action, I couldn't bring myself to do it. Well, I thought it'd happen naturally someday. That changed when my closest colleague at work told me she had found a boyfriend. I decided to take serious action and started with a dating app. I installed a well-reviewed app, set up my profile and photos, and began interacting with men. But nothing worked out, and I felt defeated. After a few unsuccessful attempts at matchmaking parties, where either no matches happened or they didn't last. I thought if the next one didn't work out, I'd take a break from seeking romance. However, at the next party, I met Tom, who would become my husband. Tom seemed like a kind man at first sight. His voice and expressions were all so gentle, and he was a great conversationalist. "What do you do for work, Rachel?" "I'm in administration." "Really? That's impressive. I'm terrible with detailed tasks. I could never do office work." It was the first time someone praised my job, and it made me somewhat happy. I tried to learn more about Tom and expand the conversation, but I quickly got swept up in his talkative charm. Tom continued to shower me with compliments. I wondered if he was just trying to impress me since we just met, but even if that was the case, being praised didn't feel bad. I'm so easily flattered. I found myself becoming more interested in Tom, wanting to talk more, and maybe even more than that. I had come to think so. It seemed Tom felt the same way, and we matched perfectly. After the matchmaking event, we decided to go out for drinks together. "It's so nice to be able to talk with you like this, Rachel." "Me too." With a little alcohol, the mood between us became even better. The idea of this being a one-time thing was no longer an option. "When should we go out next?" "Let me check my schedule." We naturally made plans for next time and parted ways for the day. After meeting a few more times, Tom asked me out. There was no reason to say no, and I happily accepted. 2 years of dating later, Tom proposed. I was truly happy, thinking I was finally getting married. I accepted the proposal, and we became husband and wife. The thought of a future with the man I loved, Tom, filled me with excitement. But later, I would come to regret accepting Tom's proposal. The hectic time of meeting each other's families and our wedding came to an end. Tom's parents were as kind and reliable as he was. "Your parents live that far away? If something happens, you can't rely on them quickly." "Yes, that's true." When I mentioned my parents lived far away, they said, "If you ever have trouble, come to us. We'll help however we can, and just let us know." I was used to my parents being far, but it wasn't without its worries. I was happy to hear the supportive words from my in-laws. Kind and dependable in-laws, and my beloved Tom. I felt surrounded by wonderful people. A few weeks into our marriage, life with Tom was as happy as I had imagined. Having quit my job to get married, I spent weekdays doing housework and waiting for Tom to come home. On weekends, we'd go out or just relax at home watching TV. "Hey, I'm off tomorrow. Wanna go somewhere?" "Oh, yes, let's go to the shopping mall." "Great idea. And maybe we can stop by the bookstore nearby." Planning our future outings with Tom was always fun. We didn't have children. Before getting married, we had discussed whether or not to have kids several times and ultimately decided against it. There were various concerns about having children, like my age, physical energy, and financial issues, but the main reason we chose not to was that we wanted to enjoy our lives just the two of us. Seeing happy families with children at places like shopping malls or children's photos on my friends' social media did make me envious at times. However, I believed that nothing could be happier than continuing our current life with Tom, and my fundamental view never changed. Then one day, something Tom said changed my life significantly. "I've been thinking about starting my own business." I wasn't too surprised, though. He had mentioned it before we got married. "I've been thinking about starting my own business in the future." "Wait, start your own business?" Of course, I was surprised when I first heard about his entrepreneurial aspirations. I wondered if it was really a good idea. Starting a business meant he would eventually leave his job. Would we be okay in the future? Would it work out? What if it failed? All these questions and worries filled my head. "Are you sure that's a good idea?" "Yeah, I've been thinking about it for a while." I shared all my concerns with Tom. He seemed confident, talking about his business plan, goals, and future aspirations. He even showed me some documents he had prepared, and I could see his seriousness. I thought if he's this prepared, he'll probably succeed. And even if it didn't work out, I believed Tom would handle it well. I decided to support Tom's dream. "What do you think about starting now?" We've saved up a good amount. You know, it's better to start young. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. With that, Tom began preparing for his startup. I decided to use the time I had previously spent on hobbies and rest to help with the business. It was all for Tom. His parents knew about his desire to start a business and came over to our house to help out. When he first said he wanted to start a business, you must have been surprised, right? He just dropped it on you out of nowhere? I was surprised. But he explained his goals and everything, so I thought it might be okay. Thank you for trusting our son, his mother said with a gentle smile. Spending more time with Tom's parents, I got to hear stories about him that I never knew in tales from their past. It turns out they used to run a business. It wasn't a large company, just a small one with a few employees, run by the two of them. Eventually, they had to close down due to financial troubles, but it was their story that sparked Tom's interest in entrepreneurship. We told him to give it up, but he wouldn't listen. We said, if you can take responsibility, then go ahead and try it. I had no idea about that. I hadn't known about this background, but it seemed like a very Tom-like reason to be interested in starting his own business. 2 months later, with all the preparations and applications complete, the business was up and running. It was an SNS consulting firm. As I didn't understand much about this world, I left the main operations to Tom. Instead, I took on all the administrative work. Tom's parents were probably curious about their son's business. They came over every few days to check on us and help out. Many people might find it unbelievable to see in-laws so often, but I was actually happy to spend time with them. They had become a significant support for me. 6 months into the business, things started to stabilize, and we even hired some part-time employees. I felt sorry about Tom's parents helping so much and offered to pay them, but they said, "We're just killing time. Don't worry about it." I felt bad, but I didn't want to make them uncomfortable with frequent talk about money, so I dropped the subject. Before I knew it, a year had passed since we started the business. The performance was still going strong, and we expanded our team with more employees and part-timers. Everyone we hired was kind, and I was happy to work in such a pleasant environment. I found myself enjoying work more than in my previous job. Everything seemed to be going well, but there was one thing that had changed for the worse. It was Tom's behavior. "Wait, you're taking the day off from work again?" "Yeah, sorry. I've got some stuff to handle." "Yeah, okay." Tom started missing work, saying he was sick or had errands. It's understandable to be sick occasionally, and errands can coincide with work once or twice, but when it happens frequently, it makes me wonder why he can't manage his schedule better. What could be so important that he needs to skip work? He always handles work-related tasks during work hours. The more I think about it, the more I wonder what Tom is secretly up to. "Rachel, I might be late or unable to come to work tomorrow because of some errands." "Sorry about that." "Again tomorrow?" Although he apologizes, it feels like just lip service. If he truly felt sorry, I believe he could make some changes in his behavior. One day, I decided to gently bring up Tom's excessive absences. Tom. I know it's your company, but it is still a job. I'd really appreciate it if you could handle personal errands on your days off." Tom seemed surprised by my words. "I'm sorry, I'll be more careful." "Thanks." After my talk, Tom began coming to work regularly again. It felt good to see him listening to my concerns, given his recent behavior. However, within a month, Tom was back to missing work, claiming to be sick or having errands. I doubted my single reminder would make a lasting impact. So I decided to talk to his parents. I need to talk about Tom." When work slowed down a bit, I approached his parents, who were helping us out. Their surprise was evident. "Tom's been doing that?" "I thought he might be out working." I had no idea he was skipping work. Exactly, even though it's his job. Being sick is one thing, and personal errands are understandable, but it seems like he's taking off a bit too much. "I know. As I explained Tom's recent behavior, they became visibly angry. The next day, his parents confronted Tom. "Tom, we heard you've been missing work? How did you know that?" "Rachel talked to us." "What are you doing, exactly?" "Remember, this is the business you started. Don't rely too much on others and take responsibility. We don't want you to end up like us, regretting it when it's too late." Tom seemed shocked and distant when his parents called him out. "Are you listening?" "Yeah, sorry, I'm listening. Just stop causing trouble for others. If you have a serious reason for being absent, you need to explain it in detail." "Got it?" "Got it." Tom reluctantly agreed to his father-in-law's words, seeming annoyed. I had never seen Tom like this before. As I stood there, puzzled, looking at Tom, he asked me, sounding irritated, "What?" "Sorry, it's nothing." "All right." With that, Tom left the room. His parents, too, seemed to have never seen Tom behave this way, whispering to each other. Could he be tired? Recently, on days when Tom said he had errands and skipped work, he would always come home late at night. I was curious about what these errands were, but every time I tried to ask, he would evade the question. What is he hiding from me? That night, I felt bad about bringing it up but decided to ask Tom directly. "Hey, what's been going on lately? Every time you say you have errands and skip work, you come home late. Are you hiding something from me?" "We're married, you don't have to hide things." I hoped he would open up, especially after what happened earlier in the day. But Tom just glared at me and said, "Rachel, it's none of your business. I don't need to tell you. But it's nothing to do with you if I say it's nothing to do with you. This conversation is over, got it?" "Wait a minute. Just leave it. I'll make sure not to skip work anymore, okay? You're being too persistent." With that, he walked away from me. Persistent, huh? His words stung. It was the first time Tom had ever spoken to me so harshly. While I was in shock and felt that I could have looked at the situation a little longer, I also felt that it was his job and I wanted to make sure he was doing well. But now, if I bring it up again, he'll probably just call me persistent. I was at a loss for how to interact with Tom from now on. Since his parents talked to him, Tom's attitude towards me had changed drastically. He stopped making excuses and came to work, but he started looking at me with disdain. He ignored me or looked annoyed whenever I spoke to him. Both at home and at work. "Hey Tom, about today's work." "Don't ignore me, did I do something wrong?" "It's nothing." What is Tom thinking? Could it be that Tom has come to dislike me? No matter how much I pondered, I couldn't find an answer. However, the day came when I understood what Tom had been thinking and what he had been hiding from me. On that day, Tom came home early from work, which was unusual for him. He seemed upbeat and refreshed. When I finished work and got home, I found Tom, unusually, sitting on the living room sofa. "That's rare," I said, as he had been cooped up in his room recently. Tom turned to me with a grin and said, "Oh, you're back. I have something to tell you." "What's going on?" Tom looked at me triumphantly and announced, "I'm taking all the employees and going independent." "What?" I couldn't understand what he was saying. But Tom, amused by my shock, continued, "Oh, and write this up too." He pulled out a completed divorce form from the table drawer. "I've found a new woman. So, write this, will you?" "Wait, what do you mean?" "Just what I said. She's way better than you. I'm really glad I met her." I was stunned. Independence, divorce, it was all too sudden. "Oh. Anyway, make sure to submit this divorce form. See ya." Tom left the house, leaving me standing there, dumbfounded, in the silent room. In front of me was the completed divorce form. The sudden turn of events overwhelmed me, and I couldn't grasp the situation. What should I do now? What's the right action to take? I couldn't find any answers. But then, I thought of someone. His parents. They hadn't been at the company today, but they should be at home. With trembling hands, I took out my smartphone and called Tom's parents. Hello? After a few rings, I heard my mother-in-law's kind voice. Mom. I managed to say, tears welling up from a sense of relief as I heard her voice. What's wrong? It's about Tom. I somehow explained to my mother-in-law what Tom had said to me and the situation I was in now. I don't know what to do. Just hold on a moment, let me talk to father. My mother-in-law, sounding flustered, went to consult with my father-in-law. But quickly she came back and said, just wait at home for us. We'll come over and have a discussion together. Really? Is that okay? Yes, of course. We'll be there soon. A few minutes later, my in-laws arrived. Mom, Dad. Are you okay, Rachel? I'm fine. But as soon as I saw them, I broke down in tears. I felt pathetic for being in such a situation. They hurriedly supported me and brought me to the living room. After a few minutes, I calmed down and explained everything in more detail than before. That Tom was having an affair. That on days he said he had errands and missed work, he always came home late. That he had left with the divorce papers, telling me to submit them. And that he had announced he was taking all the employees and going independent. I was so confused, my words came out in bits and pieces. My in-laws listened intently and nodded in understanding. But after I finished, they seemed stunned and speechless. Then my father-in-law said, I'm truly sorry. Our son has. My mother-in-law also apologized. No, it's not something you two should apologize for. They bowed their heads in apology. I felt uncomfortable and quickly asked them to lift their heads. For the moment, I was relieved to have talked to my in-laws. Considering everything that had happened, I knew they would be on my side. But I was still unsure about what to do next. I needed to find out if Tom had approached all the employees about going independent, where he was now, and gather evidence of his affair. After the way Tom treated me and then thrust the divorce papers at me, I couldn't even think about rebuilding our relationship. Since Tom clearly wanted a divorce, I decided to go through with it regardless of how the situation unfolded. Naturally, I wanted the divorce to be on the grounds of Tom's fault, and I expected to receive alimony. What should I do? As I muttered this to myself, my father-in-law, who was sitting across from me, spoke up. Let's resolve this one step at a time. I'll look into Tom's situation, and Rachel, please handle the company matters. Although Tom has been talking about independence, the fact that none of the employees are stirring up suggests it might just be all talk. Understood. So, I decided to divide and conquer with my in-laws. I wouldn't let Tom get away with saying it was all a joke. When Tom first announced the divorce and his intention to go independent, I was overwhelmed by a mix of emotions and confusion. But now, things are different. I started preparing to bring Tom down to hell, fueled by my clear hatred for him. A month later, Tom was standing in front of me. I had gathered all the evidence and testimonies I could and summoned Tom to my in-laws' house. Initially, Tom continued his heartless remarks, but when I told him I would file for divorce if he showed up, he quickly changed his tune and agreed. The thought of him cluelessly showing up, not knowing what awaited him, was amusing to me. So, what do you want? I came because you called me. There's nothing to talk about, though. Where had the Tom before the business venture gone? It felt like I was in a bad dream. You've been doing whatever you wanted, haven't you? What? What do you mean by doing whatever I want? Explain yourself. Tom, crossing his legs, responded provocatively. Previously, I would have been at a loss for words, but not anymore. Having affairs, trying to go independent on your own. What? I told you that already. You're calling that doing whatever I want? And there's more. Stealing money and supplies, as I heard. I knew about the affairs and the talk of company independence. But as I dug deeper, I found out that Tom had been taking money from the company. When I brought up the money, Tom's face turned pale, and he visibly started to panic. What? Why would I need to do that? Are you crazy? And do you have proof? You're not just making this up to get back at me, are you? You think I'd lie about this now? If you think I'm lying because I don't want to divorce you, you're wrong. I am going to divorce you. That's why I called you here today. Then show the proof now, Tom said, sounding desperate. So, I showed him the security camera footage, just as he wished. What? Cameras? Why? You were absent from the company for a while, remember? I installed them then. I even consulted you about it, but you weren't listening. Actually, I had installed security cameras near the safe to enhance security. I couldn't just set them up without consulting Tom, so I asked him about it. He seemed distracted and just replied, "Yeah, sure," not really paying attention. But there was no doubt he had agreed, so I installed the cameras after consulting with the employees. The reason I knew Tom had been stealing money was because of those cameras. I could have just said I saw it on the cameras, but one of the employees, who Tom hadn't approached about joining his independent venture, had witnessed his suspicious behavior. This employee was an older part-timer who hadn't been asked to join Tom's new venture. You were going around asking people to join you in your independence, promising better conditions than now. Well, everyone refused. But to think the only person you didn't approach, the older part-timer, would tip us off. Is this some kind of joke? Angry Tom challenged me, and I showed him the security camera footage. I narrated it specially for him. See? You're stealing money here. Look. Ah, shut up. Tom responded, clearly unable to deny the evidence on the video. He looked dejected. What were you going to use it for? Startup funds. He had been stealing from the company to fund his own startup. Unbelievable. I had no choice. What do you mean no choice? Why couldn't you just continue the business as is? Because. Because what? Explain yourself. My father-in-law, who had been silent until now, clearly frustrated with Tom's evasive attitude, finally spoke up. Tom then started shaking and began to explain why he wanted to start his own business. It turns out it all started with an affair. He met a woman at a bar after work. The flirt was consulting for people like Tom who were starting their own businesses. As their relationship progressed, he began to think about starting a new business with her. Starting a business was harder than I thought. So why did you decide to start a new business? It doesn't make sense. I thought it would work out with her. It was just pitiful. A person who gives up so easily on difficult tasks wouldn't succeed in a new venture. And to think he was stealing company funds for his independence. He might cause even bigger problems in the future. You're incredibly selfish, aren't you? Were you going to see your affair partner when you said you had errands and didn't come to work? Right. I want to quickly demand alimony and have him out of my sight. Even my in-laws seem to have moved from anger to sheer disbelief about the alimony for the affair. As soon as I brought up the topic of alimony, Tom, who had been looking dejected, suddenly lifted his head to look at me. Then he said something utterly too late. Rachel, can't we start over? I'll break up with her. I'll drop the business venture. Let's start fresh, just the two of us. Start over? Was he serious? Was he sane? As I stood there, stunned, Tom continued. Come on, it'll be all right. I was stupid to talk about divorce. Let's go to various places together again, make lots of happy memories. So, no way. However, my father-in-law, angered by Tom's words, slammed evidence of the affair onto the desk. How dare you even think of starting over after doing such things? This is. What my father-in-law presented were documents and photos from a private investigator, detailing Tom's affair. There were photos of Tom and his mistress entering a hotel, walking arm in arm, looking happy. And a document meticulously detailing where and what Tom and his mistress were doing. There was no way he could deny it now. What? Why are there such photos? You hired a detective? Yes, if she is to divorce and claim alimony, solid evidence was necessary. She never know when she might retract your confession about the affair. So, it's better to have a detective gather evidence, isn't it? Why are Dad and Mom on Rachel's side? Who would side with someone who does such despicable things? You're a huge disappointment. You probably said let's start over because you didn't want to pay alimony, right? What a pathetic son. I'm genuinely grateful that my in-laws are sensible people. As soon as Tom realized they weren't on his side, he slumped again. No matter what you do, my feelings for you will never return. With those final words, making it clear there would be no reconciliation, Tom had nothing left to say. Afterward, I pursued legal action against Tom and his affair partner for alimony. According to my lawyer, both were reluctant to pay, but eventually, they begrudgingly agreed. It's unbelievable they would still resist at this point. Though Tom had shown a defeated demeanor during our discussion, his true colors were disappointing. A week after the divorce was finalized, Tom sent me a ridiculous email blaming me for his breakup with his affair partner, wondering what I was going to do about it. I decided to ignore him, but as he persistently sent more emails, I replied with a simple "stop being so persistent," and he stopped contacting me. Since then, there's been no word from him, but the alimony continues to be paid, so he must be managing somehow. Later, I heard from my in-laws that they had also cut ties with Tom. Now alone, having alienated his parents, wife, and affair partner. I hope Tom reflects on the terrible things he's done. I'm now leading the company Tom and I started, acting as its representative. Albeit in name only. Relying heavily on the support of those around me. But my employees all believe in me, and their trust is both heartwarming and reassuring. My former in-laws, now just strangers, still visit occasionally, concerned about my well-being. I'm surrounded by such warm-hearted people. While grateful, I continue to strive for the company's expansion. My name is Amy Elysian, I'm 32 years old. My husband is Harry Elysian, 38 years old, who runs an event company. I've been married for 6 years. People think I live a life without any hardships. But I feel a lot of constraints. And nobody knows the other side of my husband, who appears cheerful and positive. Harry loves gathering with a lot of people. This day was called Harry's father, John's birthday party, and the whole family gathered. While we were lining up at a fancy French restaurant waiting for our table, my husband proudly said, "We often come to places like this. Always Michelin-starred with my wife," with a smug look. Well, aren't you lucky? Huh? Must be the diner down the street you're talking about. You always go to star-rated places with your mistress, right? I shot back. What? The relatives erupted in anger all at once. I called out Harry's mistress, Susan, and exposed everything in front of the whole family. Did you think I didn't know anything? Harry scratched his head, looking embarrassed. Susan, suddenly called out, didn't even try to hide her displeasure. When did you find out? Because of Susan's suggestive posts. There was a photo of an arm wearing a watch Harry bought for several $1,000s. There were also photos taken from the passenger seat of Harry's car. It was too obvious, you know? Besides, I immediately knew about how you met Susan, at our house with university friends. That time, Susan had just divorced, and we gathered to cheer her up. Even then, Harry, you shamelessly asked for her number. It's really creepy how you approach women like that. No, it's just manners for a man to approach a beautiful woman and say she's beautiful. It's not like I was taking advantage of Susan's heartbreak. Right. Flirty Susan is just your type. Of course, you wouldn't miss the chance to talk to her. Harry's swift moves were unmatched by anyone. Amy was bored, you know. She seemed all sparkly and fun, but once we got married, she turned out to be boring and negative. I was deceived. It's like marital fraud, Harry often said. I met Harry through work. I was hosting events and weddings. Harry was the president of an event company, organizing many events themed around male and female interactions. I was called as a host, and that's how we met. Amy knew you were a playboy and still married you. You say I can't pick men, but are you all right in the head? But you said Harry was attentive, and there was something about him you couldn't ignore. You said every day felt like a proposal. And you, Amy, were completely fooled by Harry's tactics. Indeed, I married Harry knowing he was a womanizer. Yet, I never expected him to take Susan as a mistress. I was the one deceived. Harry is the type who doesn't feed a fish once he's caught it. As soon as we married, I was forced into a plain life. It wasn't the luxurious lifestyle everyone thinks. Harry's public face is fake. Since marrying Harry, I was restricted in many ways. I even had to quit the hosting job I loved. Harry's father was a business owner, and Harry had lived a wealthy life. Harry himself, with his father's support, ran his successful event company. So Harry spent lavishly on hobbies, on women, doing as he pleased. Yet, he expected me, his wife, to be virtuous, unnoticeable, and support him from the shadows. I have no authority over money, and it's my job as a wife to make ends meet with just enough cash. Where did my dream of a lavish lifestyle go? Every day, I search for cheap supermarkets and live a life of saving and thrift. Look, I don't skimp on money when I think it's necessary. I like to spend generously on my employees, friends, and young kids because I want them to enjoy themselves. And I don't question it. Being wealthy is a charm in itself. Your money is really your father's money, if you trace it back. Even the company you started was because of your father's support. Before marrying me, wasn't it your father who cleaned up after your womanizing? In the end, you're just a big baby still living off your father. What? The success of my event company is all thanks to my ideas and planning. Without that, it wouldn't have grown this big. Sure, I got support from my dad when starting, but everything after that is my own doing. You just don't want to admit it. You were famous for being a playboy since college. You did whatever you wanted in the event club, right? Women are all you think about. How to charm them. Of course. It's a world where you gotta charm the ladies. What's wrong with that? Then you should have just stayed single and continued playing around. Why marry me? If you can't be satisfied with one woman, you should have stayed single forever. All you wanted was someone to take care of you, right? You choose flashy beauties for affairs and mistresses, but want a wife who's quiet and supports her husband from behind. If that's the case, choosing me as a wife was a big mistake. You know it yourself. I regretted marrying you almost immediately. I chose you for your looks, but soon realized you weren't domestic. But I couldn't just divorce you right away because of the family, right? As long as we keep pretending to be a good couple, no one will suspect. You're willing to spend money on your mistress, but not on your wife. For me, it's okay to be satisfied with the local diner, but you escort your mistress to Michelin-starred restaurants. The clear distinction is almost refreshing. I married him willingly, so I can't complain now. But this marriage is far from what I imagined. I refused to continue this marriage life as Harry's slave. The moment I found out about Susan as his mistress, I couldn't see a future with Harry. I later learned that when we had the party to cheer up Susan at my house, she went to the bathroom. That's when Harry asked for her number. I can't believe he hit on her right outside the bathroom, even with me in the next room. Turning any place into a meeting spot, is that Harry's genius? And Susan didn't hesitate to give her number. She had just divorced and probably didn't want to see my happiness. She gave her number not because it was any man, but because Harry was wealthy and my husband. Harry, who loves women, and Susan, who loves men, might actually be a good match. Stop being jealous. It's pathetic, especially since it's Susan. What? Don't flatter yourself. Who's jealous? It's just immoral to go after your wife's friend. A secret romance is exciting. The sense of betrayal to the wife, to the friend, it's irresistible. Ew. There's a perfect incident that describes my relationship with Susan. We were at the same university, majoring in the same field. We knew each other, but weren't really close. One day, we talked about our future dreams, and it turned out we have the same dreams. That was to become an announcer. Isn't that a dream job for many women? To become an announcer, it's believed to be helpful to have a title like Miss Campus winner. Both Susan and I entered the Miss Campus contest. We both made it to the final, where I won the jury's special prize, and Susan won the contest. From that day, Susan began to look down on me. Since I was expected to win overwhelmingly, it only made her victory seem greater. I was bitter at the time. But, even though Susan won Miss Campus, she failed to get into any major or local TV stations. Same for me, too. Neither of us became the glamorous TV casters, seemingly promised a future with celebrities. After my dream of becoming an caster faded, I shifted gears. After graduation, I joined an agency and started working as a host for events and weddings. It was close to my dream job, so I enjoyed it. On the other hand, Susan took a job as a receptionist at a general company, far from any affinity with being an announcer. A receptionist is often the flower of the company. Typically a role for beautiful women. Susan must have wanted to leverage her beauty. She was popular, of course, but the president's son was particularly insistent in courting her. It seemed she decided to marry him out of pressure, but everyone thought it was for the money. She married the president's son after just half a year. Having a lavish wedding in Greece and US, rumored to cost about $2 million. I can't forget Susan's smug face. Her permanent employment was envied to the point of absurdity. She was the most beautiful and radiant at that time. Susan got pregnant soon after her wedding. She emphasized it was a honeymoon baby, but the timing suggested otherwise. Still, it must have been a chain of happiness for her. But just 2 years later, Susan divorced. It's funny. Amy, Harry didn't cherish you at all. You were just treated like a housemaid. He bought me everything I wanted and even let me open a beauty salon. What's the difference, I wonder? You're just like a caged bird. That beauty salon of yours, are you getting any customers? I heard you're overcharging for lousy services, leading to a storm of complaints. Without proper qualifications, just some basic training, who would go to your salon? Your staff keeps quitting, and you can't get new hires. It's probably running at a loss, right? That's what happens when you try to make money the easy way. Don't take your frustration out on me because you can't work. I realized my dream of owning my own store. Unlike some mere housewives. Since it's not your money, it doesn't hurt you, right? Harry's wrong in where he invests his money. He should have put it into something with more future and profit. And don't underestimate just a housewife. It's a tough job. I know that myself for being a divorced mom. But in your case, Amy, you don't have kids. I don't want to be lumped in with just a housewife. Don't talk about being a housewife without knowing the hardships of child-rearing. When children are mentioned, I have nothing to say. I wanted children too. But I reluctantly gave up because Harry didn't want them. The presence of a child would have been a ray of light in my monotonous days. I was completely left behind by the world, not even allowed that. The thing that infuriated me the most was Harry taking Susan as his mistress. It was about a child. Susan has an 8-year-old daughter. Harry dotes on her. Maybe it's because she's a girl. He especially buys her clothes like she's a dress-up doll. Despite his insistence on not wanting kids with me, he dotes on his mistress's child. What kind of nerve does he have? Maybe he spoils her because he has no responsibility, but to me, it's just baffling. And it's not just that. I can't help but feel Susan is using her child cleverly. Since her divorce, she's been active as an influencer mainly on social media. She frequently posts about her child on her SNS, hiding her face, to show off how hard she's parenting. But in reality, she's hardly with her child, leaving her with her parents. She's just posting stored photos. You aren't really parenting. You just see your child as a tool to shine yourself, right? Using your child to boost you likability is so transparent it's off-putting. What? Someone who knows nothing about parenting shouldn't talk big. I'm a single parent, so it's natural to rely on my parents when I have work. My daughter's living because I work. Work. That's what you call work? You barely show up at your beauty salon, even as the manager. You leave everything to the staff and just watch from afar. You blame them for every complaint and publicly scold them. No wonder your staff leaves. You're failing because you underestimate running a business. Susan really only thinks of herself, flaunting her celebrity lifestyle on SNS. Oh. I remember now. You posted about this French restaurant too. All on Harry's dime, right? Exactly, so what? Harry spends on me because I'm more attractive than you. You have always been good at winning men over. Even in college, surrounded by admiring boys, strutting around like you're in a harem. You think nobody knew about the bribes you gave for the beauty contest votes? How you circulated your swimsuit photos asking for votes? And handing out date tickets to less popular boys in exchange for votes? I wanted to win by any means. Most guys fell for me, that's my charm and ability. The best reward for their votes was a date with me, right? That's why I won the highest honor. The means don't matter, it's all about the result. Compared to the jury's special prize, it's like you got nothing. It's just a pity prize. I wanted to be an announcer no matter what. Even if it meant playing dirty, I was only focused on winning. My determination was worlds apart from yours, Amy. You and your half-hearted awards and attitude are the most embarrassing. And yet, you ended up in a job unrelated to broadcasting, didn't you? I wondered why a receptionist back then, but now I get it. You just wanted a rich husband, right? The perfect guy showed up, your ex-husband. You bragged and boasted about him. Gifts of rings for no reason, cruise dates, foreign trips. He was indeed generous. But you just had to show off, didn't you? On SNS, surrounded by branded stuff. Post the same things over and over. The more praise you got, the more trapped you seemed. Even though he was wealthy, you were desperate to fit in with the celebrities. Did you think it would last forever? In the end, you betrayed the man who gave you that lifestyle. You said the divorce was because of his DV, but it was actually your affair. Weren't you frustrated losing that lavish life because of your desires? Lucky you weren't sued for fraud. But that's just who you are. There was real DV, and he didn't care for our child, there were many issues. But isn't that a boomerang back at you? Didn't you want to be a famous broadcaster, marry a wealthy man? That's why you married someone like Harry, right? What, you think you've won this argument? So, Susan, you're ready to live a completely different life if you marry Harry? No way, I have no intention of marrying Harry. Being his mistress is more beneficial, a win-win. I'd never marry him. I don't want to be a slave like someone. Harry, why are you silent? This whole mess is because of you. What are you, cool as a cucumber? That's just like you. Susan says this, but what about you, Harry? You gonna leave it half done? Plan to divorce me and marry Susan? You took her as a mistress with full awareness, right? You need to give answers, not just to me, but to Susan too. Always silent when it's inconvenient, but that solves nothing. Always running away. How many times did your dad bail you out? Did you know your affairs and mistresses were attacking me? What's your responsibility to me? My prime years were stolen by marrying you. I'm at my limit with all the dissatisfaction and patience. If we divorce, fine. I have enough women to fool around. I could just hire a real maid. No need for you. What? Do you even understand how I've lived? I've taken care of everything, from meals to comfortable environment, so you could perform at work. Your success isn't just your effort. I've been your shadow support. Have I ever been selfish? Ever said no to you? Enough with the disrespect. Fine, let's divorce. But I'll definitely get my share of the property and alimony. Whatever. I'm satisfied with current situation. It's no loss to me. You're too flashy to be just a housewife. Beautiful, but you can't overshadow me. I'm the main actor here and you, Amy, are just a supporting character. Typical of a beauty contest participant. Both you and Susan are just full of yourselves, seeking approval. Huh, is that what you think? Then let me tell you. You attract women because you have money, Harry. I wouldn't be your mistress if you weren't wealthy. Don't lose sight of your worth. You're already 38, Harry. Your value is only decreasing. What will these women you buy with money give you in return? Just a physical relationship, right? Isn't that just sugar dating? Bold of you to say that after spending my money. Good timing, though. I'm done with women over 30. Younger women are better. Susan was a catch. Couldn't tell she had a child, her figure was perfect. But she looks like an older woman if she's not careful. Was thinking of breaking up with her? But Amy, you made it all complicated by calling Susan here. I admit Susan was a great woman, but I accommodated her a lot. Money, her child. But you're not functioning as a mother. I pretended to dote on the child, but I'm not fond of kids. Just bought her clothes and toys to keep her happy. Ever cooked for your child, Susan? Always eating out or delivery. How will you live without me? Running the beauty salon is impossible now. I can manage without you, Harry. Susan was bluffing, but she's already 32. Even Harry's rude, he's right about her diminishing market value. Having a child can be a negative or a positive factor. But Susan, she wants attention on herself rather than her child, so she ends up depending on men who pay her that attention. It's a repeating cycle. Up until today's discussion, Harry and Susan were exchanging lovey-dovey emails. But now, suddenly, they're hurling insults at each other. It's shocking to see love crumble so easily. Harry's father, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke up. Harry! I've been quiet, but this is all your fault. You're not seeing yourself clearly. Your actions don't match your words. You've always been all talk, no action. I'm deeply disappointed and feel sorry. I know you've always been superficial, but I can't understand your inability to treat women kindly. It's often said that men are prone to infidelity, but not all men are like that, as I prove. Indeed, my father-in-law and mother-in-law get along well, with him always expressing gratitude to her. Older men are often praised for speaking ill of their wives, but my father-in-law praises her every day. Watching them, I've always thought what a wonderful couple they are. I've always wondered how Harry, raised by such wonderful parents, could be so irresponsible with women. No, women flock to me without me doing anything. Quiet. I didn't raise a son like that. First, apologize to Amy. All I've heard are excuses, and you keep putting Amy and Susan down. To think this is your vocabulary and expression at 38, I'm dizzy. I've been too lenient. Harry needs punishment. What? What are you gonna do? If you're telling me not to divorce Amy, I won't. Dad, your foresight is always right. You gave your blessing for my marriage to Amy, saying she's the one. My business is successful because of your advice. I'll pay Susan off properly and break up with her. So, Dad, don't do anything drastic. Even Harry fears and can't disobey his father. My father-in-law is usually gentle, but when he gets angry, it's frightening. I've heard he can be cold too. Now, what punishment will my father-in-law give to Harry? Harry, you said your company's in trouble? Yeah. Why didn't you say it was in danger earlier? Were you waiting for someone to fix it? Harry paled instantly. Being his wife, I didn't know about the state of his business. But thinking back, he was often on his phone at home. I thought he was talking to Susan or some one-night stand. But sometimes his tone was different. There were times he sounded desperate, troubled, even yelling. Maybe he was on the edge. From now on, no more financial support for you. Not a penny from the company or home. Live on your own. No one will help you. Wait a minute. The company's in real trouble. Without financial aid, it's doomed. It's already failing. Why didn't you change your lifestyle knowing it was in danger? You didn't reduce your living standard even when you had no money, even borrowing. Debt collectors came to our house. What were you planning, keeping up appearances? And there's something else you haven't reported, right? Unreported? Oh, the employees. The employees collectively resigned, right? 3 months' salary unpaid, they're suing you. What? Sued? What do I do, Dad? Help me, please. I feel the same, and I think Susan does too. Harry, you're just embarrassing. Harry suddenly seemed to have deteriorated before my eyes. I wondered what I ever saw in him to marry him. On closer inspection, Harry, now almost in his 40s, is losing the firmness in his skin. His hair, too, is noticeably thinning. In his youth, he was revered as the king of the lively event circles. He carried that same aura into starting his event company, which initially succeeded impressively. He must have mistaken it for his own kingdom. Fairly handsome, with high communication skills. And also he had money. He was bound to be popular. Women were always drawn to him, and he took it for granted. Now, his company has collapsed. He's penniless. And he can't return to his youthful looks. Harry's hellish punishment is becoming someone no one cares about. The Michelin-starred French restaurant where we gathered for my father-in-law's birthday celebration. 1 month since the tumultuous scene unfolded there. Harry's company spectacularly failed. And so did our marriage. Susan also ended her affair with Harry. He's being sued for unpaid wages by his former employees. On top of that, there's my alimony. And the unpaid rent for the beauty salon Susan managed. He needed a huge amount of money. Harry, a pampered man who never struggled, is now mistreated in any company he joins. On the other hand, Susan, the mistress who also put on a face like a victim. Susan lost custody of her child to her ex-husband due to neglecting her parental duties. It's only natural. After the divorce, I felt refreshed and resumed my beloved career as an event host. I kept practicing to be ready for a comeback, doing vocal exercises and tongue twisters. Thanks to that, I started receiving numerous bookings. Finally, it seems I can lead a life that's true to myself. We're gonna live together. You, take the kid and leave. That's what happened when I, Iris, went back to our house to pick up something I had forgotten, after living at my parents' place since giving birth. I opened the bedroom door, where the closet was. And there they were, William and a young woman, Maria, cozied up together. William, what are you doing? You can see for yourself, can't you? So, you were cheating after all. It's not cheating. I'm living here with Maria now. Maria laughed beside him and chimed in. Seeing this, I no longer had any desire to mend our relationship. Unlike you, William is a high earner. We're going to live a luxurious life with his earnings. Got it. Well, he only makes $1,000 a month. I had almost forgotten my anger about William cheating during my pregnancy. Maybe I was too busy with childcare to remember. But I'm not someone who stays silent after being treated this way. The irony was that William didn't realize he had been living off of my support, and Maria believed he was a high earner. It was a situation ripe for criticism. But if they were that foolish, it would be easier for me. I decided to thoroughly corner them, as they were oblivious to reality. I'm Iris, 29 years old. I'm a graduate of a fashion school, working in design. William, 5 years younger than me, was still a student when we met. His part-time job was at a bar near my office, which we often used for company drinks, and that's how we got to know each other. To me, William was just one of the many bartenders. But he pursued me vigorously, and we started dating. At first, I was puzzled, wondering, why me? I'm 5 years older. But I was swayed by William's words, age doesn't matter. You, Iris, are attractive. That's when I decided to start dating him. Our relationship was refreshing. Maybe because he worked at a bar, he loved socializing in large groups. He often organized drinking parties and gatherings, taking me to various bars and restaurants. His friends were all bright, outgoing young people. I was worried I wouldn't fit in, but they welcomed me warmly. 2 years into our relationship, William started working full-time, and I turned 28, beginning to think about marriage. But he was still young, and I didn't want to pressure him. I had heard that women rushing into marriage could lead to breakups. As I was struggling with these thoughts, William proposed to me. I was happy, but also anxious. The one who gave me the courage was my sister, Emma. She's always been smart and a go-getter at work. She was a reliable advisor for me. Opportunities like this don't come around often. William is a bright and good guy. Go ahead and marry him. I couldn't imagine marrying anyone but William. I thought if I were to have children, it should be with him. You're earning well, so no worries about living expenses. Just be happy. So, I married William. But soon after, something unexpected happened. William suddenly quit his job. I'd rather have my own place than work for someone else. I'm gonna work at the bar for a while, but I need your support. I was confused, but his resignation process was already underway. I made it clear to William, this is just a temporary arrangement, and braced myself to support our finances for a while. William was happy and seemed to be studying to open his own business while working part-time. I found such behavior endearing and really hoped he would succeed in his efforts. As William's part-time life began, almost a year passed. I was working full-time and wasn't fully aware, but it seemed William wasn't taking many shifts, focusing instead on studying for his business. The money he earned was being saved for his startup capital and wasn't contributed to our household. Then, something happened to me. I went to the hospital, suspecting something, and discovered I was pregnant. Clearly, I couldn't support our household in this condition. William, I'm pregnant. The part-time life needs to end. Can you start supporting our family now? I expected him to be happy, but his reaction was far from it. William threw the glass he was holding at me. It shattered with a loud noise, spilling the drink everywhere. What? So, you lied about supporting me? It wasn't a lie, but the situation has changed now. Shouldn't spouses support each other in tough times? Don't joke with me. You just want to sit back and relax because you're pregnant, huh? William labeled me as lazy and wouldn't listen. He had no understanding of maternity or paternity leave. He stared off into the distance, lost in his future plans. I'm gonna have my own place one day. I can't be bothered with such small things. With that, he stormed out of the house. He returned past 5 a.m., reeking of alcohol and with his clothes stained. It seemed he had been out partying heavily. Did you drink and party all night? Please take the pregnancy more seriously. He didn't reply, and for the next 3 days, William didn't speak a word to me. He was like a sulking child, leaving me exasperated. William stopped eating at home and frequently went out at night. I was handling all the housework, and when I did the laundry after William went out at night, I noticed the scent of women's perfume on his clothes. It was always the same scent. I couldn't believe it. I started to suspect he was cheating. But with my growing belly, I couldn't move around freely. My sister Emma offered to help when I consulted her. Hi Iris, is now a good time to talk? Yeah, William's out. Emma seemed surprised. He's out at this hour? Well, given what I found out, it makes sense. What happened with William? Emma had apparently tracked William's activities for a day. Luckily, he had been in busy areas, making it easy to follow him. According to her, William spent the night out drinking and partying. Then he met up with a young woman and went into a hotel. The place he frequented was familiar to me, near where he worked part-time. It was frustrating to know he was doing as he pleased. The worst I had feared was happening. I was speechless for a moment. But the photos Emma sent were undeniable proof of William's infidelity. The next morning, when William returned looking disheveled, I confronted him. And as usual, there was that familiar scent of perfume. William, you're cheating, aren't you? Cheating? I'm not cheating. William said, his eyes darting around, his body fidgety. Stop lying. I'm not accusing you without evidence. Don't mess with me. If you keep talking nonsense, I'll punch you. William grabbed his bag and left the house, still looking worn out. He might be going to see his affair partner. A few days later, when I started going into labor, William still hadn't returned home. With no other choice, I prepared myself, grabbed my hospital bag, and took a taxi to the hospital. There was no time to think about William anymore. The baby was born safely, and before I knew it, I was lying in bed. I was grateful my parents, who lived nearby, took turns staying with me. After the birth, I was too busy with nursing and everything else. Then, William called. The baby's born, huh? Both the baby and I are healthy. That's not important. You're staying at your parents' place for a while, right? For how long? How long? Maybe 2 months. Why? I was puzzled, but William said, it's none of your business, and abruptly hung up. I stayed at my parents' place after giving birth. William never came to see us. About a month later, as winter was approaching, I went back to our house to get a coat I had left in the closet. But when I opened the front door, I was struck by a strange sensation. The whole room was filled with the scent of women's perfume. Unmistakably, it was the same scent I'd noticed on William's clothes. The house was eerily quiet. I opened the bedroom door where the closet was. And there they were, William and a young woman, Maria, close together. She looked young, almost like a college student. William, what are you doing? You can see, can't you? So, you were cheating after all. It's not cheating. I'm living here with Maria now. Maria laughed beside him and added. That's right, we're living together now. You, take the kid and leave. Seeing them like this, I had no desire to mend our relationship. William is a high earner, unlike you. We're going to live a luxurious life with his earnings. Got it. Well, he only makes $1,000 a month. Maria seemed clueless about William's income. But she started dreamily talking about their future life, completely out of touch with reality. Anyway, I was just a nuisance to them. If that's what they wanted, so be it. I quickly grabbed my coat, ready to leave. Wait, take this with you. He handed me divorce papers, with every section but mine already filled out. I made my decision quickly. I'll sign it right here. Saying so, I filled out the divorce papers on the spot and handed them back to William. Here, this is it. Please send my remaining belongings later by courier. Yeah. Lucky me, it saves me the hassle. By then. Don't come back. As I closed the bedroom door, I heard their loud laughter behind me. I went back to my parents' house and told my sister Emma that I had gotten divorced. When I mentioned how I found William cuddling with another woman, Emma seemed utterly astounded. I actually found something out about William's infidelity. What? Emma recalled that while William was out partying at the bar, he mentioned a certain app. It sounded like a matching app but seemed more suspicious. I registered on it. Sis, are you sure that's safe? I'm single, and there's no harm in just signing up. It's free for women. Emma investigated the app and found out that William had registered on it. She showed me his profile on her smartphone. His profile picture was a design I had created for work. Curiously, it seemed he was pretending to be a designer, using my career to appeal to women. He apparently used my background because it appealed to women. His listed income was also exaggerated. His profile is full of lies. Just listing things that would make women happy, probably looking for affairs. What a shallow man. I regretted not seeing through him before marriage. Just then, my phone beeped. It was a message from William. I've already filed the divorce papers. We're strangers now. By the way, I also submitted my marriage registration with Maria. No need for you anymore. Following the message, he sent a selfie from the city hall with Maria. Emma frowned at the photo. What a terrible man. Iris, you did the right thing by leaving him. Yeah. Thinking of my child, my heart ached, but I decided to follow Emma's advice and quickly sort out my personal matters. A month later, busy with childcare and having forgotten about William, I received numerous calls from him. Answering, I heard his frantic voice. Hey! Weren't the rent and utilities supposed to be deducted from your account? I just got a notification that this month's payment hasn't been made. You're living your life now, right? I changed the withdrawal account for you. What have you done? Everything's in error, and I keep getting overdue notices. Certainly, William couldn't afford the same lifestyle on his income. But it was none of my concern anymore. We were strangers now, and I replied calmly. Yet, William seemed to have counted on my earnings even after our split. He had no intention of giving up the nice apartment rented under my financial support. You're being stingy with money. You're trying to trap me. I'm coming over with Maria to get some money from you. After the call, I asked my mom, a guest is coming, but no need to serve tea or anything. Meanwhile, my phone kept ringing. Must be William. How persistent. When I checked, there were messages from mutual friends of ours and William. Iris, how could you cheat and run off with the money? Stop being petty and apologize to William right away. I thought I could trust you. You're the worst. It seemed William had been spreading lies that suited him to our friends. Although it was out of frustration, it was still something that could not be excused. I showed my phone to my sister Emma, pondering how to reply when the doorbell rang. William and Maria had come to our parents' house. Reluctantly, I led them to the living room, where William sat back as if he owned the place. Maria leaned against him. Emma and I confronted them. So, how are you going to settle this? You're pretty bold for someone earning just $1,000 a month. Don't you dare say that here. Maria's face slightly changed color. William, what does that mean? I silently showed them William's pay stub. I used to keep them for tax calculations. This is your monthly income. No way, this is less than what a part-timer makes. He hardly took any shifts. Always said he was studying to start a business, but all I saw was him playing around. Out drinking at night, sleeping past noon. William started making excuses. This was just a one-time thing. I'll open my own place and make things easier. That's nice, but with this income, you can't even pay this month's rent. Weren't you a high-earning designer? Emma showed William's profile on her smartphone. This one, right? Yeah, we met on this app. This profile is all lies. What do you mean by that? Maria looked shocked. But these design sketches. Those are my creations. I showed Maria my sketchbook. Ah. I know this. And this too. So, you're the designer, Iris? Yes. William used my background to appeal to women. You were deceived. Pretending to be something you're not, that's the worst. I believed in you. Don't make stuff up. You're just trying to manipulate Maria. William was the one manipulating her. Such a thoughtless man, continuing lies that were bound to be discovered. He had pretended to rent the apartment on his own. And Maria, believing him, moved in with him. Being married to William was a stain on my life. Maria, you're married to him now, right? Good luck with this loser. Maria turned red and slapped William repeatedly, while he tried to fend her off. She's too naive, believes anything. Iris, if you keep this up, I'll sue for defamation. Naive. Really? You're serious? I've investigated your actions. There's a nightclub near where you two met. I went there again recently and saw Maria entering the club. What? Are you sure it wasn't a mistake? I recognized her coat from the photo you sent when you filed the marriage registration. A girl as flashy as her is hard to mistake. But William didn't seem to give up. Maria's profile said she worked at a clothing store. She's flashy because of her job. Stop being jealous, you old hag. So sorry for being an old hag. The club Maria entered has a terrible reputation. They pressure clients into expensive add-ons, basically a rip-off. Emma showed the club's review site. And there, unmistakably, was Maria's photo published on the site. No way. Sure, Maria is often not home at night, but I thought it was because her job kept her out late. Why don't you think back on what you've been doing to Maria? You've been lying as easily as you breathe, haven't you? Now that you mention it, she does have a lot of brand items that couldn't possibly be bought on a normal salary. Suddenly, Maria raised her voice. It's all out in the open now. Yes, I'm the top girl at the club, known as the princess. I get lots of gifts from various people. I couldn't help feeling a headache coming on. William and Maria, both such deluded individuals. Maria, was everything you told me a lie? It's the same for both of us. I wouldn't have dated you if I knew you weren't a designer. Liar. What I did, slightly exaggerating my background, is nothing serious. What you did is a betrayal to men. William seemed to insist that he wasn't in the wrong. Before I knew it, he and Maria were physically fighting. Their ridiculous argument was unbearable, and I intervened. You're both as bad as each other, a pair of liars. The only one who hasn't been lying is me. William turned his teary eyes to me. Iris, I was wrong. Can't we start over? You're married now, aren't you? That's out of the question. But William wasn't giving up. I'll leave her. You and I are meant to be together. Is such a convenient story even possible? I won't divorce you. I'll stay here until I find my next target. I'm divorcing you. I'll live peacefully with Iris. While playing with my phone, I commented indifferently. Who destroyed that peaceful life in the first place, I wonder? William and Maria continued their unsightly bickering. They seemed to be at an impasse, with William wanting a divorce and Maria wanting to maintain the status quo. After I placed my phone on the table and some time passed, William's phone started ringing non-stop. He checked the messages and turned pale. What the heck? All my friends are cutting ties with me? I had recorded the conversation and sent it to our mutual friends. They learned of William's misdeeds and turned against him. You're despicable for lying and involving your friends. Should I sue you for defamation? William bit his lip and fell silent. You did the right thing divorcing such a man, Iris. What are we going to do about him? Emma spoke almost gleefully. I'll make sure to get alimony and child support. Wait, I don't have that kind of money. That's fine. We might consider getting a lawyer involved. Hearing lawyer, William looked like he wanted to run. He must have realized he had no chance of winning with the evidence of his affair. I handed him a note with the bank details. You just want money, you dirty woman. I deserve alimony after getting involved with a man like you. How much more are you going to mess up my life? William grabbed his bag and started swinging it around. A vase on the table toppled over, turning the living room into a mess. Emma quickly pulled out her phone and made a call. Hello, is this the police? I'm currently being threatened by a man. Let me give you the address. It's... At the mention of the police, William and Maria turned pale. They quickly gathered their belongings and headed for the exit. I won't forgive what you've done. Don't think this is over. What a case of misplaced resentment. It was all self-inflicted trouble. Don't ever show your faces again, you lousy couple. I closed the front door before William and Maria could turn their backs. Emma, wasn't calling the police a bit too much? Emma showed me the black screen of her phone and stuck out her tongue. Was that just an act? Enough to shut those fools up. We high-fived and rejoiced together. For a while after William and Maria left, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. It was flooded with messages from friends saying, "Sorry for doubting you." At least the misunderstanding was cleared up. It seems like all of them have cut ties with William. He was always loose with money and often borrowed small amounts. Additionally, this recent mishap must have been the last straw. Now, William can no longer hang out with his friends. As for my divorce, it's already finalized. Alimony can be claimed even after divorce, so I decided to proceed as planned. William seems to be working hard, taking more part-time jobs. One day, I received a call from him. "Iris, help me. Maria won't leave the house. So you two didn't get divorced." I want to get divorced, but Maria apparently has nowhere else to go. No matter how much I ask, she just won't budge. It's the exact opposite of William, who didn't bother working and quickly left the house when I asked. "Weren't you two in love and got married? Why don't you try to make it work? I can't stand being with that liar anymore." Maria's brazen about it, openly using dating apps right in front of me. She dresses up and goes out at night, and she doesn't contribute financially to the household. I couldn't help but laugh. Maria's actions were unexpected, but it seems she's giving William a hard time. That's unfortunate. But remember, I put up with your similar treatment and even gave birth. Maybe it's time you tried a bit harder? But, Iris. Maria takes all the money I managed to save. Please help me. William's voice sounded whiny. Just hearing it filled me with a visceral disgust. I firmly refused his plea for help and hung up. I heard from mutual friends that William later got fired from his bar job. Unable to control his philandering ways, he hit on a regular customer. The bar owner, furious, reminded William of all the support given and then unceremoniously kicked him out. With little work experience and struggling to find a new job, William soon fell into debt. Unable to borrow from reputable sources, he resorted to dubious lenders and got trapped in a cycle of debt. Meanwhile, Maria continued living in William's place, spending her nights at the club, meeting men, and going about her life. She apparently had no place to live and, spotting William who seemed well off, managed to marry him. Her lifestyle relies on depending on men. Now, she's desperately searching for a man with better prospects. No matter how much William tries to convince her, Maria refuses to leave the house, and their arguments seem endless. I, on the other hand, relentlessly pursued William for the $60,000 in alimony and child support. So far, he's been paying on time. Emma's bluff worked wonders, and our threats seemed to have an effect. William occasionally calls asking for help, but I ignore him completely. Compared to the pain I endured, his troubles seem trivial. With the support of my parents and Emma, I'm comfortably raising my child. Emma, being single and childless, adores the baby. My child is growing up healthy and strong. We spend precious, ordinary moments together, like singing along to TV shows or playing in the bath. I'm planning to return to work part-time and send my child to daycare next month. As for me, I really love my job. The thought of returning to work excites me. The company is very understanding and they say they will be considerate towards me, now that I have become a single mother. From now on, I want to cherish the things I love while embarking on a new journey in life. My name is Mirabelle Watson. My husband and I have been married for 20 years, and we have 2 daughters, 19 and 17 years old. Our eldest, Sally, is in college, and our younger daughter, Julie, is in high school and aiming for the same college as her sister. My husband, who was raised in a wealthy family with his father being a business owner, had a very different upbringing from mine, which was in a typical working-class family. He's an artist, but his work just doesn't sell. As a result, we're perpetually broke, and I'm pretty much supporting the family, but I've always thought that as long as the family is at peace, that's all that matters. However, that peace was suddenly shattered. It started when my husband brought home a pregnant woman. "Who is she?" I asked, seeing her leaning on my husband. They clearly didn't seem like just friends. "My mistress, Erica." She looked much younger. She and my 45-year-old husband were an odd match. "How old is she?" "She's 30. Young, right? She's way prettier than you, and finally, it's like spring has come for me." "But there's a 15-year age gap between you two." "When there's love, age doesn't matter." But I wondered if that was really true. "So, I want a divorce." "Divorce?" It was like a bolt from the blue. I had supported him all this time, and now he was suddenly declaring a divorce. Even though it was because of me that we were able to make ends meet. Could an unsuccessful artist really remarry with a younger woman? "Well, Erica's carrying my precious heir." "Heir?" "Yes. What's the use of a woman who can't produce an heir? What kind of legacy are you even talking about passing on?" I wondered if he meant to pass on his unsuccessful art career. It's obvious. My father is the CEO of a company. That company needs an heir. And you couldn't give me a son. What? I was stunned. My husband had abandoned his family business, refusing to follow the path laid out by his parents. He's been drawing illustrations since his student days and got praised by friends for being good at it. He decided to live in the art world, against his parents' wishes. I married him to support his dream, but now he's talking about needing an heir. But you never cared about your parents' business. That was just youthful folly. I thought I didn't want a conventional life as a business owner, but being an artist is harder than I thought. Becoming a CEO seems easier. Plus, I'm the only heir. There's no one else, so I had to have a son. And you've been no help in that. You decided not to run the business, and now you want our child to do it? If he takes over, we'll be set for life. He'll be the CEO when he grows up, and I'll be living easy. But you said you didn't want to. I hated the idea, but now I see the appeal of being a CEO. But I can't give up art, so my child will be the heir. My father won't object to his grandson becoming CEO. It seems he's dreaming big again. He's always been a dreamer. Believing he'll be a famous illustrator, drawing every day without working. No matter how unsellable his art was, he kept saying having a goal is what makes life worth living. Now, he wants the child to be the CEO. Even though we have children? Girls are no good. They just think about getting married. There's no point in investing in something so uncertain. Is that how you've seen our daughters? Yes. I've always thought girls are no good. So that's why you took a mistress? It's more effective than having a woman who can only give birth to girls. I made a child with another woman to protect the company. It's all for preserving my father's business. That's ridiculous. What's so ridiculous? Women are just a financial burden. No matter how you raise them, they end up with someone else. A complete waste. So for the past 19 years, since our children were born, you've seen them as a waste? Exactly. Girls are a waste. Now I understand. When he learned our first child was a girl, he stopped coming home. He even tried to make me miscarry by making me carry heavy things during pregnancy. But she was born, and he didn't let me rest after giving birth. He made me do housework from the day I left the hospital. When we had our second child, he was careful until he found out it was a girl, then it was the same all over again. I couldn't even buy them pretty clothes. Because he said spending money on girls was pointless. I started working part-time, working hard for the kids. Seeing this, he stopped working entirely, even turning down illustration jobs he didn't like. I've endured because of my in-laws. They've always treated girls and boys equally, and they've been a great support. The only one who insisted that the heir had to be a boy was my ex-husband, Ken. You get it, right? That's why we're getting divorced. You can have the kids. All right, I understand. I replied. After signing the divorce papers, I told him, I'm sorry for only being able to give birth to girls. I don't need alimony or child support. Just stay out of our lives. That works for me. Don't you bother me either. He said, clearly pleased, and left with his mistress, Erica. 5 years later. At my father-in-law's 80th birthday party, all relatives gathered. Although I was divorced, my daughters were still his grandchildren. They had been invited, and so we went. There, we saw Ken with Erica. And their 5-year-old son. When I saw Ken after a long time, he was dressed in a rather shabby manner, and his wife appeared equally impoverished. But their son was well cared for. What are you doing here? You're not family. Ken snapped when he saw me. Well, hello. I might not be family, but my daughters certainly are. They are your father's grandchildren, after all. I suppose you're just tagging along. Otherwise, you wouldn't be stepping foot in this house. Maybe so. There's talk about the successor today. Not that it concerns you. A successor? Well, I have 2 relatives here too. Girls can't be successors. My son will be the next CEO. We'll see about that. I said, dismissing his snide comment. As we sat down for dinner, toasts were made, and gifts were presented to my father-in-law. My daughters and I each had a present, while Ken only had a cheap tie to offer. After glancing at the tie Ken had given him, my father-in-law said, thank you, but then quickly set it aside. Probably realizing it wasn't suitable for a CEO to wear. Then, he began to speak about his successor. I'm 80 today. I should have named a successor and retired earlier, but it's time now, especially since my grandchildren are grown. Dad, my son should be the successor. He's only 5, but in 20 years, he'll be a fine young man. And it has to be a boy. But I'm 80 now. I can't wait another 20 years. But the CEO has to be a man. Girls won't do. Well, I don't think that way. If they can work well, gender doesn't matter. Whoever can care for the employees and protect the company should be the CEO. It won't work. A woman can't survive in a man's world. Most of our clients are men. Having a woman in charge will only bring trouble. Ken was desperate. Trying to change his father-in-law's mind about a female CEO. But I knew. My father-in-law had always believed that if a woman is capable, there's no problem. My daughters could very well become the CEOs. Contrary to that, my son is a boy. Just 20 more years. If you can't handle it, Dad, I can take over until then. What are you talking about? You can't possibly manage. You've never been involved in the business. I could if I wanted to. It's not a part-time job. Just then, a young man entered the room. He was dressed in an expensive suit and looked like a bright, promising young man. He approached my father-in-law, bowed deeply, and handed over a gift. Thank you for inviting me, sir. I apologize for being late. I was worried the wine you like wouldn't arrive in time, but it just made it. It seemed the gift he handed over was the wine. My father-in-law smiled, pleased, and gestured for the young man to sit down. He sat next to my eldest daughter, Sally, and put his hand on her shoulder. Sorry I'm late. It's okay. Dad, I thought today was family only. Ah, this is John Hudson. A capable executive in our company. At 30, he's made an exceptional rise to the executive board. But he's not family. Surely, you're not thinking of making him the CEO? That's outrageous. The CEO has always been from the family. We should wait for my son to grow up. I've told you, I'm 80. I can't wait for your son to grow up. I'm opposed. If he's not family, who knows what he might do? Who will best ensure the company's prosperity? I've thought about it. You're not planning on making Sally's fiancé the CEO, are you? If they're both willing, I think that's the best option. Sally and Hudson exchanged smiles. Ken was furious. What are you saying? That's out of the question. Why is it so unacceptable? Well, as a father, I can't just hand my precious daughter over to some unknown man. We know exactly who he is. He's one of our executives. Still, how can I be sure my daughter will be happy with him? I'm speaking as a parent. I'm opposed to this marriage. Mirabelle, what do you think? I'm in favor. Hudson is an excellent man. He's efficient at work, caring, and very kind. He would be perfect as both Sally's husband and the CEO. Ken says he's thinking of Sally, but he doesn't know Hudson. He hasn't even seen Sally in 5 years. Someone like you doesn't have the right to dictate Sally's marriage. Well, that's true. No, I'm her father. A father's opinion matters. What if Sally ends up unhappy? That would be terrible. Ken, are you just making excuses? Not at all. I can agree to the marriage, but not to him becoming the CEO. That's odd. You were opposing the marriage for your child's sake, but now you say marriage is fine, but not him being CEO. It sounds like you just want your own son to be CEO. No, that's not it. It's just about waiting until my son can take over. That's doubtful. After all, he's your son. He'll probably want to carve his own path. And waiting for an uncertain future when we have someone capable here doesn't make sense. It's too soon for such discussions, they're not even dating. Actually, Sally and I are in a relationship. What? I thought so. You knew, didn't you? You even had your hand on Sally's shoulder earlier. I wanted to use this gathering to ask the president for his blessing for our marriage. That's underhanded. Using this meeting about the CEO to announce your marriage is too sly. I didn't know today would be about such important matters. Lies. You knew all along. Dad, I really didn't know. I just wanted to report our marriage to Grandpa. It's rare for us all to be together, so today seemed like the perfect timing. Ridiculous. A marriage report without knowing? This is a conspiracy. You must have had plans to become CEO. No, there was nothing like that. I don't believe it. The next CEO will be my son, he's a blood relative. Ken, you're being ridiculous. Our child's marriage and Hudson becoming CEO are two separate matters. No, Dad must have said if you marry, he'll make you CEO. That's why you proposed, right? Being the CEO's grandson-in-law is a great catch. Dad, that's awful. Hudson isn't like that. How would I know? Where did you even meet this guy? I introduced Sally to Hudson. What? To support the family, I worked part-time after having children. That part-time job was at your father's company. After the divorce, I became a full-time employee there. That's where I met Hudson, and I thought it would be wonderful if he married Sally. I see. When we divorced, you said you didn't need alimony or child support, but you were planning to marry Sally off to this guy, weren't you? There's no way I could have known that. No, knowing you, you must have schemed all this. If that's not the case, then agree to my son becoming the CEO. If you do, I'll admit it wasn't your plot. If your son is really yours, then it might be okay. What? My son is definitely mine. Well, we'll see about that. What are you saying? I've kept quiet until now, But if you're going to interfere with Sally's marriage that much, I guess I have no choice. Saying this, I handed a document to my father-in-law. What's this? It's the DNA test results of Ken and his son. Why do you have something like that? After we divorced, I heard some unsavory rumors about Erica. Unsavory rumors? Yes, about her having a history with many men. So, I decided to investigate. How did you manage that? It was simple. Erica would leave the child at daycare when meeting men. I got one of the daycare staff to obtain a sample. I believe it was his pacifier. We bought an identical one and swapped it. For Ken's sample, we used his semen. How did you get that? You're still quite active, it seems. I found out you were visiting brothels, so I asked one of the girls there. Of course, I paid her well. Thanks to that, we got a good sample. The test results showed a 99.9% chance they are not parent and child. You've been going to such places? You were fooling around with other men? I didn't spend money on my affairs. You're the one who paid for it. A woman with other men is a bigger problem. Both of you are just alike. But I thought, as long as the child grows up well, it's fine. However, after hearing today's discussion, I realized you're using the child for your own selfish desires. So, it's better to make things clear. If there's no blood relation, he can't be the successor, right? Then, the child can't be the heir. What a mess! Why didn't it turn out like this? You said he was my son. Well, you promised to marry me if I had a boy, and I happen to be pregnant with a boy. Besides, you said once he became the heir, we'd be rich. But after marrying, I realized you're extremely poor. You gave me all sorts of gifts before marriage, completely deceiving me. I was the one who was deceived. Still, I endured thinking our son would eventually become CEO since you said he was the only male child and guaranteed to become the CEO. Now this happens. It's your fault. It's not just my problem. If he can't be the successor, then everything I've done was for nothing. You're the one who had a child with another man. If it were my child, there wouldn't be a problem. Enough. Blood relations aren't everything, nor is being a woman a problem. Women can certainly become successors. But in our family, there's no male or female fit for the CEO's chair. However, we have a granddaughter in a relationship with a competent employee. If they want to marry, it seems the next CEO is decided. Where's the problem in that? Stop making such a disgraceful scene. I thought I finally had a son. If you hadn't run away from home against your parents' wishes, none of this would have happened. You misjudged your life choices and still act like a fool. I thought this would make me rich. Fool! The next day, Ken contacted me. I never expected Sally's partner to become the CEO. I thought only men in our family, my son and I, would be successors. You were fixated on the idea that only a man could do it. Did you really not think things through when you divorced me? Huh? When we divorced, you said you didn't need alimony or child support. Of course not. You insisted it had to be a boy, treated me horribly when I was pregnant, belittled me for 19 years, and were harsh to the children. Do you think I would simply wish for your happiness without any thought? Knowing how much I hated you? So that means? Of course, I wanted to make a fool out of you. Then why didn't you take alimony or demand child support? You should have, right? What use would it have been to claim anything from someone who clearly couldn't pay? I wanted to leave as the perfect wife, dropping you into a quagmire instead. I did want Sally to become the CEO, but she wasn't cut out for it. So, you set her up with this Hudson guy? Set up? That's a terrible way to put it. He's truly competent. For the company to prosper, we needed his abilities. And if he's CEO material, then Sally supporting him seemed right. They'll make a great couple. But, even with the best plans, things don't always work out. I just introduced them, the rest was up to them. This all seems too convenient, doesn't it? It was fate. Eventually, he'll become the CEO, Sally will be the CEO's wife, and I'll be in the background. Damn it! I'm going to expose all this to Dad. Go ahead. Exposing it won't bother me. After all, management is about strategy. Your father is a businessman, right? He understands these things. How underhanded can you be? It's not underhanded, it's strategy. You lost because you had no plan and chased dreams. I prepared everything to the very end. The very end? I knew you'd interfere with Sally's relationship with Hudson. So, I kept the DNA test results ready. You had it prepared for yesterday's revelation 5 years in advance? Obviously not that far ahead. I couldn't foresee 5 years into the future. But when I saw the results, I knew they'd be a useful card someday. So I kept them safe. I see. So, your game ends when Sally marries Hudson and he becomes CEO. Trying to sabotage Sally's marriage? Those two won't break up. How can you be so sure? Hudson's a man, after all. I've checked everything about him. He's not a cheater like you, nor does he visit brothels. A clean, decent man. His only flaw might be that he's a workaholic. Such a man sounds boring. Better than someone like you who doesn't work and just plays around. Anyway, there's still the vice president's position. But finding a husband for Julie from within the company might be tough. Oh, I'm not done yet. What do you mean? You're assuming Julie will be easy to handle because she's a woman, but she has the makings of an executive. She doesn't need an exceptional partner. Are you planning not to let her marry? Someone supportive and helpful at home would be ideal. She'll find someone like that. But can such a marriage be happy? They won't make a living. They will. Julie will be the vice president. Vice president? Julie is a woman, you know? A man who understands and supports her work would be perfect. Even someone who's willing to be a stay-at-home husband. That's not a man. Better than someone who doesn't work properly and only draws unsuccessful illustrations. Damn it! But who knows if Julie will really become the vice president? A woman is just a woman, after all. If she finds someone she loves, she'll want to get married. Think what you want, but Julie has me. Your children have a parent who doesn't understand management. You understand management? Yes, no need to worry. I've learned a lot from your father. I'm not in the family business, but I understand the company better than you ever will. But my child will someday. Impossible. My final goal is to completely knock you out of the succession race. That was your real intention? Of course. A person who ridicules others and can't strategize doesn't deserve to be CEO. And I wanted to see you, who looked down on women, lose to one. That's why I continued working at your father's company even after our divorce, searching for a suitable successor. When I found one, I introduced him to Sally. Damn! You thought that far ahead. That's why you can't beat me. I said. Afterward, Ken divorced Erica. They both betrayed each other, apparently. Since the 5-year-old son wasn't Ken's, Erica took him and demanded child support this time. Ken, now alone, tried to return home. But he was rejected by his family for leaving without any plan and not listening to them. They even scolded him, saying, a man should stick to his decisions. Without a home or income, Ken struggled to survive. He tried to find a woman to at least have a place to live. But, being neither handsome nor wealthy, found no one. He lived off his mistress's earnings and now didn't know how to live alone. His apartment turned into a garbage dump. And his application for welfare was denied. He thought of turning to Sally, now the CEO's wife. But she wouldn't help after he tried to interfere with her marriage. So, Ken, unable to rely on anyone, lived a tough life as an unsuccessful illustrator. As for me, my eldest daughter married, and Hudson became CEO. My youngest daughter, Julie, joined my father-in-law's company after graduating from college. She's enjoying her work every day and will likely help lead the company alongside the CEO someday. I look forward to that day and keep working hard.
Hola, suscríbete a Historias Vitales para no perderte nuevas historias. Mi esposa había estado trabajando en su proyecto especial durante 4 meses ahora. No era su proyecto personal, pero ella era la persona principal y responsable de su éxito. El proyecto estaba diseñado para salvar a su empresa, Bixler Enterprises. Los últimos 4 meses habían sido difíciles porque se vio obligada a trabajar duro. Era importante tanto para ella como para la empresa. Había una buena posibilidad de que Bixler Enterprises quebrara si el proyecto no se completaba. Sarah tenía una licenciatura de Albrecht y un MBA de Wharton. Era la más inteligente de la familia. Yo empecé a trabajar como mecánico de autos justo después de la secundaria y después de 21 años seguía siendo mecánico de autos. No me importaba porque me gustaba el trabajo y pagaba bien. Era suficiente para pagar la universidad de Sarah y criar a 2 hijos. No vivíamos lujosamente, pero estábamos bien. Los niños ya se habían mudado, y las cosas iban bastante bien con nuestros ingresos. Sarah quedó embarazada 3 meses después de casarnos a la edad de 18 años. Durante los primeros años de nuestro matrimonio, vivimos con mis padres. Ellos tenían una gran casa vacía ya que 4 de mis hermanos se habían mudado. Eso significaba que teníamos una niñera mientras Sarah completaba sus primeros años de universidad. Debido a 2 embarazos, la carrera de 4 años le llevó 6 años completarla. Fue difícil, pero lo logró. Siempre tuve trabajo y nunca me faltó trabajo extra si lo necesitaba. Después de que Sarah se graduó de Wharton, alquilamos nuestro propio lugar. Tuvo ofertas de trabajo de varias empresas grandes, pero todas requerían que nos mudáramos. A mí no me importaba, pero Sarah quería quedarse cerca de casa. Por eso decidió trabajar en Bixler Enterprises. Pagaba bien, pero lo más importante, le daba responsabilidad y la oportunidad de avanzar. Sarah era una empleada trabajadora y dedicada. La presentación es el jueves en el Hotel Thyssen en Filadelfia. Tomé unos días libres en el trabajo para ayudarla según fuera necesario. Al final, todo lo que logré fue hacerle algo de comer cuando llegaba a casa. No sabía nada sobre su trabajo, ni tampoco quería saber, los negocios corporativos de alto nivel me aburrían. Empresarios de Europa, Asia y América del Sur venían aquí, la empresa pagaba sus boletos de avión y proporcionaba habitaciones en el Hotel Thyssen mientras estaban aquí. Era caro como el infierno, y por algunas cosas que Sarah había dicho, la empresa estaba sobreestimando sus finanzas. Su presentación era importante para ella, para la empresa y para más de 200 empleados. Hasta el martes por la noche, todo iba bien. Sarah llegó a casa con un traje nuevo, un traje gris con una blusa blanca. Desplegó todo lo que necesitaba en la cama de la habitación de invitados. Cuando se trataba de la limpieza de la casa, ella era normal, pero cuando se trataba del trabajo, era meticulosa. No entendía por qué necesitaba sacar su ropa interior de lujo, pero no dije nada. Además de su traje para la presentación, tenía varios vestidos de cóctel lindos para eventos sociales antes y después del evento. Siempre había evitado tales eventos, pero me sentía obligado a ir con ella si ella quería que lo hiciera. Me agradeció la oferta, pero dijo que no era necesario. Todos los materiales y equipos que necesitaba estaban guardados ordenadamente en el maletero de su Volvo. Antes de salir del trabajo, ella misma conducía el coche para asegurarse de que todo estuviera en perfectas condiciones. Tenía todo el día miércoles para prepararse y toda la noche del miércoles para socializar con sus invitados. Sarah era tan buena en lo que hacía que sentía que habría sido mejor si simplemente me hubiera mantenido alejado de ella. Finalmente, había terminado. Lo había revisado y vuelto a revisar todo. Todo lo que necesitaba ahora era una ducha caliente y una buena noche de sueño. Supongo que mi error fue que empecé a revisar sus cosas después de que Sara comenzara a ducharse. Pensé que estaba ayudando, pero resultó ser lo contrario. Estaba moviendo cosas en la cama cuando un pequeño sobre blanco cayó del bolsillo lateral de su bolso de maquillaje. Una carta de una farmacia, pero no del tipo que solemos usar. Dentro había 10 pastillas. No tenía idea de qué era, y las instrucciones eran confusas. Si es necesario, tomar una pastilla y luego una segunda pastilla 12 horas después. Pensé que podría ser algo que ella había conseguido para la ansiedad o los nervios, pero las instrucciones no tenían sentido. La receta estaba escrita a su nombre el lunes. Volví a poner el sobre en su lugar mientras ella terminaba de ducharse. Decidí que quería saber más sobre antes de contarle sobre ello. Por supuesto, si lo mencionaba, significaría que estaba revisando sus cosas. Odio los dilemas. Mientras Sara se preparaba para dormir, fui a nuestro ordenador doméstico y busqué. 10 minutos después, me uní a mi esposa bajo las sábanas. Pasé toda la noche despierto, preguntándome por qué mi esposa había recogido una receta para la píldora del día después, especialmente después de que me hicieran una vasectomía hace 10 años. A la mañana siguiente, me levanté temprano, pero no estaba descansado. Di un largo paseo, esperando que despejara mi mente. Me dirigí hacia casa con reticencia, temiendo lo que podría hacer o decir cuando llegara allí. Mi hijo Joe se unió a la Marina después de la escuela secundaria y estaba en su primer año en San Diego. Nuestra hija Gloria se casó con su amor de la infancia el año pasado y acababa de mudarse a Dallas. Eso dejaba solo a Sara y a mí. Echaba de menos a los niños, pero esperaba envejecer con mi esposa. Ella era la única mujer que me había interesado, y ahora todo estaba. Si Sara estaba teniendo una aventura, lo ocultaba bien. Por supuesto, nunca la vigilé. Nunca miré sus correos electrónicos o llamadas telefónicas. No tenía razones para hacerlo. No tenía forma de saber qué estaba haciendo en el trabajo o después del trabajo. Confiaba en ella completamente. Ion, ¿dónde demonios has estado? ¿Quieres huevos o algo? No, solo café. No me sentía con muchas ganas de hablar. ¿Qué pasa, cariño? Solo son 3 días. Puedes venir si quieres, pero te aburrirás como una ostra. No, realmente no quiero ir, pero odio dejarte sola. Me preocupo cuando no estás aquí. Es muy dulce, querido, pero estará bien. No voy a salir del hotel en todo este tiempo. Pasaré la mayor parte del día asegurándome de que la sala de conferencias esté lista, y esta noche tendré una agradable charla con nuestros posibles clientes. Mañana, probablemente ni siquiera tendré la oportunidad de ir al baño. Llegaré a casa lo más temprano posible el viernes, te prometo un gran fin de semana si sabes a lo que me refiero. Todo eso suena bien, pero no puedes culparme por preocuparme. Soy un mecánico de autos, y tengo una esposa hermosa y exitosa. A veces tengo la sensación de que estás menos interesada en mejorar nuestra situación familiar que en avanzar en tu carrera. Detente, maldita sea, Ion. Siempre he respetado lo que haces para ganarte la vida y nunca he insinuado lo contrario. Criaste a 2 grandes niños y me pusiste a través de la universidad. Eres un gran esposo, un gran padre y un buen proveedor, y nunca olvides eso. Terminé mi café mientras ella recogía la mesa. ¿Quieres que te llame? No, no es una buena idea. Tendré el móvil apagado, y voy a apagar el teléfono de la habitación por la noche para poder dormir. Te llamaré siempre que pueda. La ayudé a cargar el coche, era tan meticulosa con eso como con todo lo demás. Trabajando, le llevaría 3 horas llegar al Hotel Dicen. Me quedé en el porche y la vi marcharse. No me molesté en preguntarle por las pastillas. Pasé el resto de la mañana en el porche. No recuerdo haberme preocupado tanto como ahora. Me sentía pequeño e insignificante. Me sentía fuera de mi liga. Era un tipo de pueblo con un trabajo mediocre y una esposa exitosa. Era una combinación equivocada. Debería haberlo notado antes. Me sentía estúpido. El mejor traje que tenía era una chaqueta azul y un par de pantalones. Al menos tenía algunas corbatas, aunque tenían 10 años de antigüedad. Acababa de terminar de vestirme cuando sonó el teléfono fijo. Oye, cariño, solo quería avisarte de que llegué bien. ¿Tuviste un buen viaje? Supongo que el tráfico no estaba demasiado denso. Estuvo bien. Te llamaré esta noche. Ahora tengo que irme. Estoy en la habitación 714, Sara. Puedo estar en casa de mis padres o en la de mis hermanos esta noche si quieres llamarme a mi móvil. De acuerdo. Suena el teléfono móvil. Te quiero, tengo que irme. Me tomé mi tiempo para llegar a Filadelfia. No fui directo al Listen, primero me detuve y compré un filete con queso. Prometía hacer una larga noche. No estaba seguro de qué iba a hacer. Estacioné en el garaje del hotel y simplemente esperé. Tarde o temprano, tenía que entrar en el hotel. Simplemente no podía decidir cuándo hacerlo. El sonido de mi teléfono celular me ayudó a tomar mi decisión. Ion, solo quería avisarte de que todo se ha arreglado. Ahora voy a bajar para encontrarme con algunas personas y cenar. No olvidaste nada, ¿verdad? No, todo está bien. Tengo todo en mi habitación para mañana. ¿Necesitas algo? No, Ion, relájate. Voy a apagar mi teléfono. Te llamaré mañana por la mañana. ¿De acuerdo? Ríe, diviértete. No es divertido, Ion, es trabajo. No parecía estar demasiado fuera de lugar. El vestíbulo, el restaurante y las salas de conferencias estaban llenos de gente, así que pude pasar desapercibido. Había un folleto pequeño y bonito que mostraba el diseño de todas las habitaciones del hotel. Me paseé por las diferentes habitaciones y me detuve en las paredes, mirando alrededor entre la multitud. No tenía ni idea de qué haría si Sara me veía. Lo averiguaría si y cuando eso sucediera. Encontré un tablero de eventos que enumeraba todas las habitaciones que estaban siendo utilizadas por los diversos grupos. Bixler Enterprises no tenía habitaciones disponibles para el miércoles por la noche. Esto me pareció interesante. Sara había dicho que no iba a salir del hotel, pero ahora no estaba tan seguro de eso. Había 3 comedores, familiar, informal y de alta cocina. A Sara no le gustaba mucho cenar con niños, así que fui primero al comedor informal. Solo me llevó 5 minutos asegurarme de que no estaba allí. Tuve mejor suerte en el salón gourmet, era una acogedora mesita encajada en la esquina, el tipo de mesa que la gente reserva para tener un encuentro privado. Sara llevaba un vestido de cóctel negro con un escote pronunciado y perlas, se veía elegante y su acompañante parecía apreciarlo. Conocía a algunas personas con las que trabajaba Sara, y él no era una de ellas. Me resultaba familiar, pero no había forma de que pudiera recordarlo. Había muchas sillas libres, así que no tuve problemas para cruzar la sala. Había velas y pequeños candelabros de cristal en las mesas. Apagué la mía y le dije al camarero que me molestaba por el glaucoma. Pedí el plato de pollo de siempre y me acomodé. El camarero me sirvió el café por tercera vez. Disculpe, el tipo en la mesa de enfrente me parece muy familiar. ¿Sabes quién es? Sí, ese es Malcolm Eugene Foote. Es miembro del Consejo Municipal, se espera que se postule para el Congreso en los próximos años. ¿Es esa su esposa con él? Es muy bonita. No, esta es la primera vez que la veo. Siempre usa esa mesa para señoras especiales, si me entiende. Simplemente le sonreí y pedí la cuenta. Nunca había visto a Sara tan sensual con un hombre antes. Parecía captar cada palabra que decía, como si fuera Dios o algo así. No estaban haciendo nada inapropiado, pero tampoco era platónico ni profesional. Cuando me fui, estaban terminando su segunda botella de vino. Ahora entendía por qué se había llevado su lencería elegante. Me acomodé en una esquina del vestíbulo para que no me vieran. 10 minutos después, salieron del restaurante. Ella le tomaba la mano mientras caminaban por el vestíbulo hacia el ascensor. Observé cuidadosamente los indicadores de piso. Que el ascensor se detuviera en el tercer piso era una buena señal, significaba que no lo había llevado a su habitación. Era una mala señal cuando el ascensor no llegaba al séptimo piso, significaba que ella fue a su habitación. Por si acaso me equivocaba en algo, me senté en el vestíbulo y observé el ascensor durante 1 hora. La gente entraba y salía, pero Sara no estaba entre ellos. Saqué mi maleta vacía del coche y me dirigí al mostrador de recepción. Aunque podía demostrar que era su esposo, me costó trabajo conseguir una tarjeta llave. Se dieron después de llamar a la habitación, pero nadie respondió. Finalmente, estaba en camino a la habitación 714 con la tarjeta llave. Ni siquiera encendí las luces al principio, simplemente me senté en la oscuridad de la habitación durante más de 1 hora. No fue difícil asegurarme de que no regresara a la habitación. Primero, empacé todas sus ropas y pertenencias personales. No dejé nada atrás. Revisé el paquete de Preven, todavía quedaban 10 pastillas en el tocador. De manera muy ordenada, estaban todos los artículos que necesitaría para su presentación al día siguiente. Comencé a llenar la maleta. Había 24 carpetas promocionales especialmente encuadernadas y otras 20 carpetas regulares, todas ellas fueron a la maleta. Un proyector digital fue lo siguiente, seguido de una computadora portátil. Tomé su bolso y su celular, que había dejado en la habitación. Todo lo que tenía consigo era un bolso de mano y probablemente un tubo de lápiz labial. Di una vuelta por la habitación tan cuidadosamente como lo hizo ella para asegurarme de no perder nada. Una vez satisfecho, dejé las llaves del coche y mi anillo de bodas en el tocador. Aparte de esos 2 objetos, la habitación estaba completamente vacía. El ascensor se dirigió directamente al estacionamiento, no tuve problemas para llevar 2 maletas, y 20 minutos después, estaba en la autopista rumbo al norte. Pasaban las 3 de la madrugada, no tenía idea de que había pasado tanto tiempo. 1 hora o 2 después, sonó mi teléfono celular, la identificación de llamadas mostraba el número del listen. Sí, ¿dónde estás? Estaré en casa pronto. Eso fue todo lo que dije. Hubo silencio en el otro extremo de la línea. Los vendedores tienen un viejo dicho, el primero que habla pierde. Pareció una eternidad antes de que ella hablara. Lo siento. No preguntó nada y simplemente colgó. Apagué mi teléfono, era obvio que había regresado a su habitación. Más tarde ese día, tenía que dar una presentación que salvaría a su empresa y le daría un ascenso. Metí las maletas en el desván del garaje. Sara nunca iba allí y nunca pensó en buscar algo allí. Por supuesto, en este punto, estoy bastante seguro de que no importaba. Primero, recogí todas mis ropas y pertenencias personales. La mayoría de los hombres tienen sus propias herramientas, generalmente es un requisito para el trabajo. Pasé por la tienda, cargué las mías en el Subaru y recogí mi último cheque de pago. Para entonces, los bancos ya estaban abiertos, no tuve que hacer ninguna manipulación financiera complicada. Simplemente retiré todo el dinero de mis cuentas. Almorcé en Hagerstown, Maryland. Tenía suficiente dinero para vivir durante unos años, pero sabía que estaría buscando trabajo muy pronto. Sara y yo éramos parecidos en eso de que a ambos nos encantaba trabajar. La voy a extrañar. Pasé un par de horas en las cuevas del Uray y alquilé una habitación cerca de Whitewell. No tenía idea de qué iba a hacer. Era sábado, y me encontré sentado en el acuario de Chattanooga, observando la naturaleza que nunca había visto antes. Pasé unas horas simplemente relajándome y decidí que era un buen lugar para estar. Compré un pase anual para el acuario y, para la hora de la cena, tenía un lugar donde quedarme. Era un remolque móvil en el parque, pero estaba amueblado y era económico. No necesitaba mucho. La primera cosa que haría el lunes por la mañana sería conseguir un trabajo. Un buen hombre de mantenimiento siempre puede conseguir un trabajo, especialmente si está dispuesto a trabajar duro. Podría permanecer discreto hasta que fuera el momento de renovar mi licencia de conducir o las etiquetas del coche, me preocuparé por eso cuando llegue el momento. El domingo por la tarde, llamé a Gloria. Me sentí obligado a informarle sobre lo que estaba sucediendo, pero Sara ya se lo había contado. Fue bastante franca con Gloria sobre lo que había pasado, dijo que había engañado, que la sorprendí, que me fui y que ella perdió su trabajo. Me sentí mal porque ella perdió su trabajo, pero ese era el precio que tenía que pagar. Le pedí a Gloria que le dijera a Josh lo que estaba sucediendo la próxima vez que hablara con él. También le dije que la llamaría aproximadamente una vez al mes para verificar cómo iban las cosas. No le dije dónde estaba. Para el mediodía del día siguiente, tenía un trabajo. En realidad, estaba a poca distancia del parque de remolques, con el Waffle House a mitad de camino. ¿Qué más podría querer un hombre? No sé cómo manejaron el papeleo, pero me estaban pagando $20 por hora sin hacer preguntas. Estaba feliz, y ellos también. Ni siquiera tendría que tocar el dinero que traje conmigo. Unos 2 meses después, Gloria me informó que Sara se había mudado de la casa y estaba viviendo con sus padres. Gloria no sabía nada más, pero estaba feliz de que estuviera estable y le estuviera yendo bien. Josh me llamó desde San Diego solo para informarme que iba a hacer un crucero. Era técnico en aviónica en un portaaviones, intentó explicar qué hacía exactamente, pero estaba más allá de mi comprensión. Nunca supe mucho sobre cosas técnicas. Ambos tuvieron cuidado de no decir nada malo sobre su madre, aprecié eso. Después de eso, todo siguió como siempre. Comencé a hablar con Gloria al menos semanalmente, Josh y yo comenzamos a enviar correos electrónicos regularmente. Gloria hablaba regularmente con Sara, pero decía muy poco sobre lo que estaba haciendo o dónde estaba. Nunca presenté la solicitud de divorcio, y parece que Sara tampoco lo hizo. Tengo una licencia de conducir de Tennessee y las etiquetas en el Subaru. Comencé a frecuentar un bar local un par de veces al mes y tuve encuentros casuales, 2 mujeres se alternaban como mis compañeras nocturnas regulares. No buscaban compromisos, y yo tampoco, parecía funcionar bien para todos nosotros. La vida era buena. Eso fue hace mucho tiempo, y gradualmente olvidé a Sara. Con el tiempo, el Subaru comenzó a darme problemas, había olvidado cuánto tiempo había pasado. Tenía más de 200,000 millas. Estaba reflexionando sobre esto con una jarra de cerveza un día cuando me di cuenta de que habían pasado casi 5 años desde que me fui de casa. Mantuve un contacto cercano con ambos hijos, Gloria ya tenía 2 hijos propios en este momento y quería que los visitara. Josh casi se casó con una mujer tailandesa, pero en el último momento, se negó. Por lo general, trabajaba 6 días a la semana y usaba el domingo para recuperarme del sábado por la noche, no había ninguna buena razón para que alguien llamara a la puerta de mi remolque a las 6 de la mañana de un viernes. Su grosería fue recompensada por un hombre medio desnudo abriendo la puerta, los calzoncillos del día son repugnantes, y la dama en la puerta, juzgando por la expresión en su rostro, estuvo de acuerdo conmigo. Ella apartó la mirada, pero su compañero no parecía impresionado. Norm habría usado pantalones, pero en un momento como este, los invitados me molestaron. Estamos buscando a John Terrell. No los conozco. Me llamo David Simmons, y esta es mi esposa Mara. Tenemos un problema y esperamos que nos puedas ayudar. Lo siento mucho, no trabajo a altas horas de la noche. Si necesitan algo relacionado con su auto, tendrán que ir a la tienda. Esto provocó varias miradas en blanco y finalmente una respuesta. No tiene nada que ver con tu trabajo, es más un problema personal. ¿Podemos entrar? El interior del remolque lucía desordenado, rara vez tenía invitados, así que rara vez lo limpiaba. Incluso mis novias insistían en que fuéramos a su lugar. Hagan como en su casa, déjenme ponerme los pantalones enseguida. Al entrar en el dormitorio, dejé la puerta abierta solo para mostrarles lo hospitalario que soy. También me puse una camisa. ¿Les gustaría tomar café? Solo tomará unos 10 minutos. Aparté algunas cosas del sofá para que pudieran sentarse. No hubo respuesta a la pregunta del café. Tenemos una hija adoptiva de 4 años y otra de 2 que necesita un trasplante de médula ósea, y esperamos que nos puedas ayudar. Estamos dispuestos a pagarte si es necesario. ¿Con mi médula ósea? No, queremos usarla y estamos dispuestos a compensarte por cualquier inconveniente. Creo que quieren comprarla. Estaba actuando como un listillo, y de repente me di cuenta de ello. Estas personas eran serias, tenían un problema real y estaban buscando ayuda. Lo siento mucho, no quise interrumpir. Por favor, continúen. Nuestra mejor oportunidad de encontrar un donante es un familiar cercano. Eres nuestra mejor esperanza. Mira esto. No quiero ser un grosero, pero creo que se equivocaron de persona. ¿Cuándo nació su hija? Cumplirá 5 años en julio. Marche Simmons habló por primera vez, y sonó sincera. Odio ser el portador de malas noticias, pero me hice una vasectomía hace 15 años. No hay forma de que pueda ser su padre. ¿Por qué tu nombre estaba en el certificado de nacimiento? No puedo responder eso, tal vez deberían preguntarle a su madre. Esa afirmación fue recibida con silencio. Sentí pena por estas personas, pero no sabía cómo ayudarles. ¿Cuál es el nombre de la madre? Sarah Lise Terrell. No encontraba las palabras. Tal vez no debería haber tomado esas malditas pastillas de ella, por supuesto, entonces esas personas no tendrían una hija en absoluto. Todo lo que pensaba que había superado el dolor, y aquí está de nuevo, viejos recuerdos de mi esposa teniendo relaciones sexuales con ese maldito político de Filadelfia. Estaba empezando a olvidarlo todo, y ahora estaba de vuelta. Maldita sea. Ahora entiendo y pido disculpas por mi grosería e insensibilidad. Haré todo lo que esté en mi poder para ayudarles. En primer lugar, porque no puede Sara hacerse un trasplante de médula ósea. Médicamente, no puede. ¿Por qué no? Es madre, tiene que ser una donante adecuada. O, ella es una donante adecuada, pero está demasiado enferma. Los médicos se negaron siquiera a considerar utilizarla. ¿Enferma de qué? Está muriendo de insuficiencia hepática. Le quedan menos de 6 meses de vida. Esto no tiene sentido. Siempre ha estado perfectamente sana. Además, no creo que un hígado enfermo le impida donar médula ósea. El hospital no aceptará su firma en el formulario de consentimiento. ¿Estás diciendo que hay algo mal en su cabeza? Ambos me miraron en silencio, sabían la respuesta, pero no querían decirlo. En ese momento, no quería que se sintieran aún más incómodos. Hace 10 minutos, no me importaban, pero ahora sentía que tenía que protegerlos y ayudarlos. ¿Cómo sucedió esto? ¿Podría alguno de mis hijos ayudar? Quizás, pero pensamos que eras nuestra mejor esperanza. ¿Por qué no van tras su padre, su verdadero padre? Pensamos que eras tú. No tenemos ni idea de quién más podría ser. Sara no nos dijo nada sobre otro posible padre. De hecho, ella no estaba en condiciones de explicar nada, agregó Mara. Obtuvimos la mayoría de nuestra información de la agencia de adopción. Tuve que preparar café y hacer pis, permítanme un momento. Dejé a mis invitados sentados mientras preparaba el café. Solo tomó unos minutos. Mientras se preparaba, fui al baño, algo que necesitaba hacer urgentemente. Traté de ser discreto, ya había avergonzado lo suficiente a Mara. ¿Dónde viven? En Westchester, Pensilvania. Les haré una oferta. Si les digo quién es el verdadero padre de su hija, deben prometerme que lo perseguirán sin descanso hasta obtener lo que desean. ¿De qué estás hablando? El padre de su hija es un político prominente en Pensilvania. Por supuesto, negará todo y probablemente les proporcionará documentos legales para detener sus esfuerzos. Si acuerdan presionar lo suficiente para que él admita que la niña es suya, podrán avergonzarlo y obligarlo a hacerse un trasplante de médula ósea. Eso es lo que quieren, ¿verdad? Sí, claro, pero ¿cómo hacemos eso? No lo sé. Soy mecánico. Trabajo con metal para ganarme la vida. Creo que la mejor manera sería utilizar la televisión, la radio y los periódicos. Los políticos harán cualquier cosa para evitar una mala publicidad. ¿Tienen amigos que puedan ayudar? Bueno, ahora ambos estaban sonriendo. Debo haber dicho algo que les dio esperanza. Creo que podemos hacer esto. ¿Quién demonios es él? Malcolm Eugene Foote. Se postula para el Senado de los Estados Unidos. Apuesto a que hará cualquier cosa para evitar una mala publicidad. El café estaba listo, pero David y Marshen no podían esperar para llegar a casa. Antes de irse, les dije cómo ponerse en contacto con Gloria y Joss en caso de que los necesitaran. Estaba seguro de que ayudarían. También les pedí que me dijeran dónde estaba Sarah. Probablemente estaría en Pensacola antes de que ellos regresaran a Westchester. Me corté el pelo y compré una camisa nueva. Sarah era una tramposa que arruinó mi vida, pero aún así quería lucir bien cuando la viera. Era otro remolque, pero esta vez era un bonito doble nuevo. Allí estaba su Volvo con una llanta desinflada y un parabrisas roto. La mujer que abrió la puerta no era Sarah, parecía que la habían empapado fuerte y la habían dejado empapada. Tenía al menos 45, tal vez 50, y debió haber tenido una vida difícil. La falta de maquillaje no ayudaba, y simplemente se veía horrible. No tuve la oportunidad de abrir la boca. Caray, si no es John Terrell. Nunca esperé verte aquí. Tuve que usar la vieja línea, me estás poniendo en desventaja. Sherry Hart. Pasa, entra. ¿Quieres una cerveza? No, pero gracias. Estoy aquí para ver a Sarah. Sherry cruzó la habitación y se detuvo en el buffet del comedor. Aquí está, John. Mírala todo lo que quieras. Su mano señalaba una urna de latón que estaba en el centro del buffet vacío. Supongo que llegué demasiado tarde. No me moví, solo me quedé mirando el contenedor frente a mí. ¿Puedo tomar una cerveza ahora? Sarah se mudó a Pensacola después de dar a su bebé en adopción. Compró el remolque con el dinero que recibió de Bixler Enterprises después de que la despidieron. Tenía una participación en las ganancias, 401k, y vacaciones y días de enfermedad. Eventualmente, consiguió un trabajo en una fábrica local de prendas de vestir donde trabajaba en el departamento de envíos. Allí fue donde conoció a Sherry. Sherry alquilaba una habitación de Sarah. Cada centavo que Sarah ganaba iba para el alcohol. Empezó con vino y gradualmente pasó a bebidas más fuertes, las más baratas. Eventualmente, perdió su trabajo debido a su alcoholismo y se vio obligada a usar sus ahorros. Nunca salió con nadie ni salió a ningún lado. Sherry se quedó con ella, pagó sus servicios públicos y compró alimentos que Sarah no comía. Le llevó más de 3 años quitarse la vida. Increíblemente, ella tenía un testamento y me dejó un doble remolque y un Volvo. Sherry explicó que Sarah estaba tan angustiada por lo que había hecho que simplemente se rindió. No intentó evitar el embarazo ni siquiera terminarlo. La adopción se había arreglado meses antes de que naciera el bebé. Nunca volvió a trabajar, excepto en los trabajos clandestinos que hacía mal. Sherry dijo que Sarah no parecía tener ambición ni propósito en la vida. Sarah hablaba mucho de mí pero tenía miedo de intentar contactarme. Gloria le dio mi número, pero nunca me llamó. Era como si su aventura de una noche la hubiera lastimado más a ella que a mí. Estuve allí durante 2 semanas y luego vendí el remolque de Sherry por $1 y obtuve $3.000 por el Volvo. 2 días después, estaba en Westchester visitando a mis nuevos amigos David y Marche. Malcolm Eugene Foot resistió al principio, pero David y Marche lo presionaron hasta que cedió. Insistió en pruebas de ADN, que demostraron que era el padre. Para salvar la cara, más o menos lo obligaron a someterse a un trasplante de médula ósea, que fue exitoso. La carrera política y la vida familiar de Malcolm no dejaron una impresión favorable. Su caída en las encuestas fue tan rápida que el partido lo reemplazó por otro candidato unos meses antes de las elecciones. Su esposa solicitó el divorcio y fue muy pública al respecto. Sara y yo estamos viajando ahora a Dallas para ver a Gloria y a mis nietos. No sé cuánto tiempo mantendré a Sara conmigo, probablemente hasta que tenga a alguien.